2 decades ago, a catastrophic event occurred when demons invaded the domain of humans. These creatures, with their gray wings and ominous silhouettes, flew across the crimson sky, silhouetted against the eerie blood moon. They sat on top of the remains of ruined buildings, surveying the city which had plunged into chaos. Smoke billowed from countless fires, covering everything in a thick haze. These ruthless creatures wreaked unprecedented havoc, destroying homes, provoking violence, and setting fire to everything in their path, resulting in the deaths of many innocents. In a desperate attempt to survive, people fled from these predatory demons, whose appearance struck terror into the hearts of many. With their glowing red eyes, sharp horns, and imposing fangs, these demons symbolized a terrifying change in the natural order. Humans, once the supreme predators, found their numbers plummeting under the relentless assault of these unearthly invaders. Amidst this calamity, a particularly terrifying demon with a face resembling a dragon hovered over the dead bodies of humans, a grim testament to the tragedy that had befallen the world. Salvation from total destruction came in an unexpected form. Spontaneous mutations endowed certain individuals with extraordinary abilities. Among these newly empowered people was one who had an amazing ability. The green spheres struck the demons with flashes of electricity, stunning them for a moment. Among the fighters, a young man with bright purple hair wielded a red sword, dealing powerful blows to the demonic enemies. Over time, people endowed with the ability to fight these dark forces carved out their own space in society, earning the title of hunters. To ensure the widespread dissemination of the knowledge and skills necessary to fight demons, institutions known as hunting academies were founded. Among them, the Dongju Hunter Academy stood out. As evening fell over the city, the sky turned into a delicate canvas of orange hues and purple clouds, giving a serene glow to the academy's facade. This institution honored students with superpowers, elevating them above their peers and rewarding them with distinguished status. A young man with brown hair strode through the academy's courtyard, his confident demonstration of palm fire spells captivating two spectators, one with brown hair like his and the other with blue locks. Like many others at the academy, they wore the standard uniform, a black tracksuit with red stripes. Within these walls was a student named Fang Cheng, who, despite the extraordinary talents that flourished around him, considered himself to be completely mediocre. Standing next to the metal mesh, Fang Cheng had scratches on his face and blood dripped from his wounds. His shoulder-length black hair was tousled and his red eyes betrayed his fatigue. After spending 3 years at the academy without awakening any special abilities, Fang Cheng was named the weakest student, a title that haunted him every day. His hands were chained to the fence, preventing him from escaping. Amidst his heavy breaths, he pondered the future, which was still marred by bullying even after his school years. The blond man with the earring, known as Chenu, approached Fang Cheng with a silver metal bat that sparkled with lightning bolts. Chenu, laughing derisively, remarked on Fang Cheng's amazing resilience. Despite being beaten for half an hour, he remained conscious. With a cruel smile, Chenu hit Fang Cheng in the face with the bat once again, this time on the opposite side. After the attack, he retreated, casually slung the bat over his shoulder, and stood surrounded by friends. The smug look on Chen's face emphasized the severity of the abuse Fang Cheng had suffered within the academy. With a mocking smile, it was clear that Fang Cheng must know the rule of the academy. Only those who prove their skills can graduate. Chen, calling Fang Cheng worthless, added that since he had never done so, he would have to stay for an extra year of study. The bullies glared at Fang Cheng, who was powerless to respond as he was tied to the fence. His appearance was terrible. His face had even more marks and bruises than before, and he looked completely battered. Fang Cheng lifted his head and took a deep, defiant breath, and said that Chen's awakening of power did not make him superior. Enraged by these words, Chenu swung his electric bat again, shouting that Fang Cheng could never realize the greatness of possessing such abilities. He was shouting that those who were too weak to awaken their own strength were only fit to be trampled on. Fang Cheng closed his eyes, bracing himself for Chen's next blow. However, the expected blow never came. Fang Cheng slowly opened his eyes, not knowing what exactly stopped Chen's attack. Fang Cheng opened his eyes, amazed at the sight before him. All three hooligans were blown away by a strong gust of wind, lifting them into the air. When he turned around to see who had come to his aid, his face was filled with confusion. His rescuer, a girl, was approaching them. She confronted Chen, asking if he found joy in the torment of his classmate. By this time, Chen and his friends were sprawled on the ground. The girl expressed her disappointment in them. She had long black hair adorned with bangs, and her large pink eyes glittered disapprovingly. With just a wave of her hand, she used her wind ability. Her name was Long Yu, the leader of Fang Cheng's class and the most feared student at the academy. She was also Fang Cheng's childhood friend. He looked at her with awe, wide-eyed and open-mouthed, and she looked at the hooligans with disgust. The robbers eventually got up, helping Chen to his feet. He brazenly asked why Long Yu was trying to help someone he considered unworthy, like Fang Cheng. She decided not to respond to his provocations, turning her attention elsewhere. In a cold and imperious tone, she crossed her arms over her chest and ordered the attackers to leave immediately, threatening to kill them if they did not comply. The hooligans ran away in fear, leaving Fang Cheng and Long Yu alone. Grateful for the intervention, Chen Chan mentally thanked Fang Cheng, recognizing his lucky escape with the help of Long Yu. Long Yu managed to free Fang Cheng by breaking the chains that chained him to the fence. When Fang Cheng awkwardly thanked her, avoiding her gaze, Long Yu pointed out that there was only a month left before the final exam, and Fang Cheng's strength had not yet awakened. She asked if he was thinking of repeating the year. This question surprised Fang Cheng, but after thinking for a moment he looked up and admitted that he could not afford to stay for another year. He shared that his parents died 5 years ago in a demonic attack, leaving his older sister to manage the family's finances. She was determined to provide Fang Cheng with a quality education despite their circumstances. That's why she found a job at an early age, determined to save herself a significant amount. Fang Cheng, realizing the sacrifices she was making, no longer insisted that she contribute to his tuition fees. His older sister, who looked like him with shoulder-length black hair, watched him anxiously. The young man, looking gloomy, admitted that he was afraid that if he could not awaken his inner strength before the final exams, he would have to drop out. Suddenly, Long Yu punched the fence, frightening him, and forcefully ordered him to stop such defeatist thoughts. Her intense gaze and harsh words made it clear to Fang Cheng he must not give up prematurely. With a month left before the exams, he had not lost hope of reaching his potential. Surprising him with her persistence, Long Yu continued firmly, emphasizing the dire consequences of failing to awaken his powers before the exams. Her cold gaze pierced him as she stated that without his abilities, he would be doomed to mediocrity for the rest of his life. Fang Cheng, stunned by her blunt honesty, could only follow her with his eyes as he pondered her words. As she disappeared into the distance, his gaze stayed on her. He watched her walk away, thinking about how the simplicity of life can often be harsh and unyielding, reminiscent of his childhood. Her figure was gently bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun. Fang Cheng looked up, allowed himself a slight smile, and clenched his fists. Realizing that there was no turning back, he resolutely set out on the path ahead. The warm glow of the setting sun soon gave way to the eerie light of the blood moon, painting the entire city an ominous red. While the townspeople went home in thought, a few watched Fang Cheng. Undeterred, he ran hard on the sidewalk, heading for the 20-kilometer journey home. Fang Cheng began to pick up his speed, determined not to let the perception that he was the weakest student at the academy stop him. Despite the difficulties, he refused to succumb to defeat over such insignificant things. Gritting his teeth, Fang Cheng persevered, driven by a deep-seated desire to cultivate a power that rivaled Long Yu's. In his quest to redouble his training efforts and push his body to the extreme limit, Fang Cheng was convinced that he would definitely cause his hidden strength to awaken. His run began in a narrow alleyway, leading him to a bustling street. However, he suddenly stopped when he saw the chaos unfolding before him. Panicked people were running in his direction, fleeing from the explosion that had just gone off in the building across the street from him. Chunks of concrete were scattered all over the street, adding to the commotion as more and more people ran past Fang Cheng, seeking escape from the terror and chaos unleashed by the demons. A little girl with pink hair and a dress stood out among the fleeing crowd. Her call for help, weak and full of fear, cut through the chaos. Behind her was a massive gray demon with 4 red eyes and sharp, fearsome teeth, adorned with golden armor. The girl was visibly petrified, clutching a soft rabbit toy tightly, her moans quiet but full of desperation as she tried to escape the demon's pursuit. Fang Cheng clenched his jaws, gripped by fear and terror at the sight of the fearsome demon. This drunken demon known as Blade had recently appeared in the city, wreaking havoc everywhere. With a casual toss, Blade tossed the building fragment aside, emphasizing the imminent danger and serious threat it posed. Fang Chen's actions were driven by a desperate need to protect the girl. Her screams filled the air, a cold sound caused by the fear of being grabbed and devoured by the approaching monster. With furrowed brows and gnashing teeth, Fang Chen grabbed the girl in his arms and began to run away from the demonic creature, which now reached out to snatch the child for himself. The demon stopped. Its eyes narrowed in confusion, and Fang Chen, pulsing with determination, pounded the ground with his fists before turning around. Although a part of him regretted not running further away from the demon, Fang Chen could not bring himself to give up the fight. With an ominous hiss and a menacing smile, the demon rushed at them. Suddenly, he threw his blade-like hand toward Fang Chen, and the sharp instrument stabbed him in the back. Fang Chen's eyes widened in shock. His pupils shrunk to dots as the blade came out of his stomach, causing him to let out a terrified scream. Seeing this horrific scene, the girl screamed, paralyzed with fear and uncertainty. Fang Chen turned to her with the last of his strength, his voice telling her to run away. Tears streamed down the girl's face as she promised in a trembling voice to call for help. Fang Chen's heroic deed was a testament to his bravery, even in the face of great difficulty and imminent danger. The encounter with the demon was a terrifying ordeal, demonstrating the extremes to which one can go to protect others from harm. With a formidable smile, the blade demon effortlessly lifted Fang Cheng into the air, causing him excruciating pain as he began to wriggle. He was pushed against the opposite wall with such force that it began to crumble into pieces. A severe wound gaped in Fang Cheng's stomach, prompting him to cough up thick blood. He internally chastised himself, thinking it was ridiculous to ever think that an ordinary person could rise to heroism. The demon, showing his sharp fangs through a sinister smile, burst into a loud, malicious laugh. The capillaries in Fang Cheng's eyes burst as blood came out of his mouth, fiercely staring at the blade demon who only saw him as a nice piece. With a smile still on his face, the demon began to move toward Fang Cheng again. Lying among the rubble, clutching his wound, Fang Cheng decided to escape if he had the chance. However, there was no such chance. The demon pinned him down with a massive foot, steadily pressing him into the ground with increasing force. Seething with anger, Fang Cheng was acutely aware of the irresistible power of the demon pressing down on him, an enemy against whom he was powerless. His eyes dropped to the paw that had mercilessly pinned him to the ground, filling him with a sense of deep regret at the impending, insignificant death that awaited him. He mourned his unfulfilled aspirations. He did not become a hunter, and did not achieve strength comparable to that of Long Yu. Worst of all, he realized that he would not be able to provide his older sister with the life she truly deserved. Under the weight of the monster's paw, something stirred inside Fang Cheng, a fierce determination not only to survive, but to defeat the beast that tormented him. Gripped by a cocktail of rage and despair, he roared, vowing to kill the demon, his face contorted with rage, his teeth bared, his eyes blazing with defiance. When he tried to free himself, a series of system notifications appeared. Teetering on the brink of death, he was faced with a choice. You have awakened a fierce desire to kill, and have fulfilled the conditions for merging with the demon of extermination. Since your life is coming to an end, do you want to merge with the demon of extermination? In the midst of this turmoil, Fang Cheng found himself in an eerie realm, engulfed in an unsettling silence at the crossroads of life and death. Shrouded in shadows, confusion and fear gripped him. Unfamiliar with his surroundings and the source of the voices around him, he was caught off guard by the mention of merging with a demon. Suddenly, a red hand grabbed his shoulder, and when the second one came closer to his face, gently running a finger along his cheek, more demonic, red hands appeared, pulling him down hard. He wondered if he had entered the realm of the dead. Suddenly, a system window materialized with a warning about the danger. You have 10 seconds to live. A massive gray hand materialized in front of him, with red flames raging from it. It was quickly followed by another system prompt. Do you wish to merge with the extermination demon Fang Cheng? As the demonic hands continued to pull relentlessly, dragging him further into the abyss, Fang Cheng screamed, asking if there was any alternative. The hands only pulled him deeper, driving him into despair. His face was distorted with tension, his veins bulging as he realized that the merger was his only salvation. With desperation fueling his actions, he extended his index finger toward a choice that could save him. After Fang Cheng successfully merged with the mysterious gray demon hand system, an unforeseen connection was made. When their fingers touched, Fang Cheng was imbued with a formidable ability to destroy demons. Thanks to this new power, his consciousness suddenly returned to the material world. Almost immediately, his body began to emit a crimson aura, much to the surprise of the blade demon who pinned him down. The red aura grew, strongly repelling the demon and intensifying. The metamorphosis that unfolded before the eyes of the blade demon left him completely bewildered. From the pulsating red aura, grayish hands equipped with formidable claws began to appear. Thanks to the transformation, Fang Cheng's eyes became dark black, contrasting vividly with the red pupil, which further confused his opponent. Encouraged, Fang Cheng unfolded his demonic arms and boldly moved forward. It was then that he activated his Demon Slayer form. Accompanied by a small explosion, the debris was catapulted into the air, hinting at the sheer power of its transformation. Its demonic appearance now looked like a gray demon with eyes glowing red and several horns on its head. It had a distinctive mark on its chest, but no mouth on its face. Looking around, Fang Cheng was struck with disbelief at the transformation he had undergone. Transformed into a demon, Fang Cheng grabbed his head, his eyes clouded over. Overwhelmed by a pounding headache, he tried to keep his bearings, his consciousness blurring at the edges. Unaware of what was happening, he was suddenly confronted by a blade demon that rushed at him. As Fang Cheng struggled with his pain, a voice in his head ordered him to destroy the approaching enemy. In a desperate plea, the voice sought to destroy the demon of the blade. As the demon was preparing to strike, Fang Cheng, in a last desperate attempt, grabbed the creature's hand with the blade, effectively stopping its attack. He grabbed the blade with both hands. He threw the demon across the room where it collided with the wall, and partially shattered on impact. Coughing up blood, Fang Cheng grabbed him by the neck, pulling the demon closer, trying to strangle it. Behind him, a long red aura flashed, tearing up the ground beneath them. Fang Cheng stabbed the demon blade into the wall, shattering it even more. The blade howled in pain and wriggled in agony. When he tried to hit Fang Cheng in return, he easily dodged. "You're too slow," Fang Cheng laughed, before delivering a powerful fist to his opponent's face, which caused the demon to hit the wall of the building. Not far away, two spectators watched the scene through their smartphones. "Does it look like one demon is fighting another?" one of them asked, hardly believing his eyes. "Unbelievable," replied his friend, equally amazed. Fang Cheng caught their gaze and turned to them with a menacing look. The audience felt a shiver of fear when Fang Cheng's eyes met theirs. A voice in his head ordered them to be eliminated for witnessing the scene. Fang Cheng grabbed his head in confusion, tormented by a voice whose origin he could not recognize. Despite the voice's insistent orders to kill the witnesses, Fang Cheng, still clutching his head, shouted at them to flee immediately. Quickly realizing the gravity of the situation and unwilling to face their deaths, the men witnessed a remarkable transformation. The demonic image in his left eye disappeared, the shell covering them dissipated, and human skin was revealed. When the men saw this, they began to run away in fear. One of them, caught in a moment of bravery or perhaps madness, wished Fang Cheng luck in his battle with the demons. It was then that Blade, who was lying behind Fang Cheng, began to regain consciousness. Fang Cheng held on to his faith, a firm belief that even if he merged with the demon, he would undoubtedly retain his humanity. His determination clenched into a fist. When Blade the demon began his attack with a loud scream and bared teeth, Fang Cheng was ready. He stood his ground, declaring with unwavering clarity that his fists would only hit his opponents. And with these words, he slammed his fist into Blade's chest with unsurpassed force. The demon could not withstand the impact and disintegrated into small fragments that evaporated into thin air, leaving no trace behind. After that, several system notifications appeared. "You have killed a blade demon. You have acquired blade hands. Fang Cheng looked at his hands, noticing the materialized blades on them. This revelation was profound. With every demon he defeated, he absorbed their essence. Fang Cheng looked at his blades and reflected on the long and strenuous training he had undergone, but he had not been able to awaken his powers. However, after merging with the demon of extermination, he discovered a new power, the power to become stronger with each demon he killed. This is why his new form was dubbed the Demon Slayer. When he eliminated the Blade Demon, a system notification appeared. Kill Lust ignited. Thus you have returned to your human form. He noticed the Demon Slayer's form dissipate, turning into a red aura that vanished into thin air. Fang Cheng realized that he had returned to his original form as soon as the desire to kill subsided. Surveying the aftermath of the battle, Fang Cheng realized that this clash had undoubtedly attracted attention. A hunter was probably already on his way to the scene. The prospect of someone recognizing his Demon Slayer form worried him greatly, for if his secret were revealed, he would undoubtedly become the subject of experiments. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Fang Cheng knew he needed to leave immediately. It was imperative that no one discover his unique ability. After undergoing a transformation, he hastily retreated from the battlefield, heading back to the suburban shrine of Dongju. This village was particularly dense, with its buildings huddled tightly together almost side by side. A clothesline decorated with various objects swung gently outside the modest dwelling. Fang Cheng walked home through the maze of narrow alleys and sparse crowds. A lone moped stood guard outside one of the buildings. He approached the door of his house, stepping around boxes, discarded furniture, and various debris. With a push, the door gave way, and he entered the apartment. Stopping in the hallway, he silently informed his elder sister of his arrival, his presence being enough of a statement. Visibly disheveled, Fang Cheng had small scratches on his face and his clothes were in tatters. His worried older sister went out to find the source of his late return. The siblings looked alike. His sister had long black hair and yellow eyes. Dressed in a white t-shirt, blue jeans, low-heeled shoes, and a pale blue cardigan, she rushed to him with anxiety etched on her face, filled with questions about his delayed return home. With a somewhat awkward gesture, Fang Cheng rubbed the back of his head. Their home was modest, with old furniture and minor cracks in the walls. In the midst of this simplicity, Fang Cheng chuckled and reassured her not to worry, claiming that he was unharmed. He told me how he had met a demon on his way back, but had narrowly escaped with his clothes. His gaze drifted away as he reflected on his happy merger with the demon, who miraculously healed all his wounds. Hearing his story, tears came to her eyes. She pleaded with him to be careful, reminding him of their parents' return from work and how that meeting had not saved them from the wrath of the llama demons. Fang Cheng met her concern with an understanding look, confirming his memory and assuring her that she should not worry. His sister, burdened with sadness, sighed and stopped crying, deciding to change the subject to a lighter note. She offered to cook lunch for him, gently placing her hand on Fang Cheng's shoulder as a sign of support. Grateful, he thanked her and looked out the window, thoughtful but comforted by the moment of family warmth in the midst of their difficult circumstances. Through the window overlooking the courtyard, Fang Cheng could see clothes drying on the racks. Deciding to freshen up, he found the bathroom well equipped with towel racks and a washing machine. After showering, he put on a white t-shirt and blue shorts, vigorously rubbing his hair with a towel. It was then that the aroma of a delicious meal caught his attention. Surprised, he noticed a plate of hot dinner waiting for him. His eyes widened in surprise, and he sat down without hesitation, eager to dive into the food with chopsticks in hand. The beef ramen in front of him drew remarks for its delicious smell, earning a gentle smile from his older sister as she urged him to eat. As Fang Cheng ate the noodles with great relish, his curiosity got the better of him, prompting him to ask about his sister's lunch. Her eyes looked away in embarrassment when she admitted that the store where she worked had only bread. Fang Cheng's immediate reaction was disappointment. He put down his chopsticks, expressing concern about the recurring situation. He questioned why she always resorted to plain bread, saving anything remotely luxurious or satisfying for him. His tone was filled with frustration as he probed further, wondering why she never thought of her own needs, always putting him first even if it meant skimping on her own well-being. Without taking care of herself, she raised her voice, saying that it was time for him to stop treating her in such a disrespectful way. The older sister's lips trembled, and tears came to her eyes again. As she turned away, she cried out bitterly, confirming that it was her own decision and she had no regrets. He was her brother, the last living member of her family, the only person in the world who really mattered to her. Fang Cheng looked at her a little surprised, filled with a mixture of pity and regret. He slapped his hand on the table, saying that this could not go on. From that moment on, he pledged to work hard, mastering his power so that she could finally be at peace. He begged her to let him provide her with a better life. His elder sister, impressed by his words, met him with an unwavering and confident look. At that moment, her resolve melted and she returned his gaze with a smile, confirming her faith in his abilities. Fang Cheng answered her with a smile of joy. As she started to leave the room, she reminded him to finish his noodles before they got cold. As she went about her day, he watched her with a gentle smile. She moved into the compact kitchen and began cleaning the cabinets with a rag. Wiping away her tears, she thought about her brother Fang Cheng. As she watched his newfound determination, she felt a wave of pride. It was clear to her that Fang Cheng had truly grown up. With a soft smile, she hoped that he would pass the hunter's exam. Meanwhile, Fang Cheng went to his room and something on his phone caught his attention. His bed stood by the window, surrounded by walls decorated with posters, although the corners revealed the age of the room through cracked and peeling paint. Knowing that he had the next day off, Fang Cheng planned to use the time to hunt demons to make some money. This required him to check the latest demon-related updates on the official website of the Hunters Union. While scrolling through the feed looking for a suitable task, his eyes landed on a post about evil man-eating octopuses in an abandoned park. For every 3,000 yuan, all hunters were invited to complete the task without a deadline. The advertisement was accompanied by a photo of an octopus the size of an entire tree. Fang Cheng realized that the abandoned park, the location of this task, was only 10 kilometers away, and the reward offered was substantial. He looked at the screen with a satisfied expression, confident that he would accept the mission. By using the power of the extermination demon, he believed he could easily accomplish the task. However, his mood deteriorated when he thought about the fact that this demon had taken up residence in his mind, acting as an unwanted parasite. He had already noticed the demon's influence on his thoughts during his transformation. Putting the phone down, Fang Cheng couldn't shake the feeling that the demon was hiding right behind him. He recognized that he needed to use this power with caution. A lack of control could give the demon a chance to dominate his body. With a heavy sigh, Fang Cheng recognized the harsh truth. There were no shortcuts in life. Using this power was necessary to achieve his goals, despite the risks involved. Outside, the weather reflected his stormy thoughts. It was raining heavily, sometimes accompanied by thunder. Lightning illuminated the sky as the devastated battlefield where Fang Cheng had faced the blade demon was closed in. Beside him, armed security personnel stood vigilantly with their weapons at the ready. In the midst of this chaos, a white-haired man with an umbrella watched the investigation conducted by the cloaked officers. He asked the supervisory officer, who was also hiding under an umbrella, about viewing the CCTV footage for the area. The worker explained with a tinge of regret that the Demon Blade's rampage had destroyed all the cameras in the vicinity, making the footage unrecoverable. Undaunted, the white-haired man, who was distinguished by his shoulder-length hair, a bandage over his right eye and his remaining yellow eye, ordered that every eyewitness be immediately gathered and interviewed. It was important, he emphasized, to find out who was responsible for the death of the Blade Demon. Dressed in a white shirt, a black coat, and a fanged necklace that clung to his chest, his determination was palpable. The worker, recognizing the order, lowered his umbrella in agreement. Walking in the opposite direction, the man with graying hair cast a gloomy glance at the battle scene. He couldn't help but think that the defeated demon hadn't just been killed. It had been brutally torn to pieces, beyond the capabilities of an ordinary hunter. After analyzing the scene, he assumed that it was probably the work of another demon. When it began to dawn the next morning, the distant sound of a train came from the neighboring station. Fang Cheng walked through the desolation of an abandoned park. Around him, buildings lay in ruins, their walls collapsing under their own weight. Construction debris piled up near the dilapidated structures. In the distance, multi-story residential buildings were crowded together. The lampposts, which had already corroded, were bizarrely decorated with strange red growths. Fang Cheng looked around, amazed at the transformation of what had once been a bustling office district into a desolate wasteland. Something invisible was lurking behind him. Among the rubble and broken concrete, cannibalistic octopuses were already hiding, eagerly waiting for him. Passing by the lifeless bodies scattered around, the man moved cautiously. These people could have died while hunting for the ferocious cephalopods. Fang Cheng, horrified, turned around to examine the grim appearance of the corpses, suspecting that they were hunters. The condition of their remains indicated that they had died not long ago. As he got closer, he saw gaping holes in their torsos, concluding that these unfortunate souls had been devoured from the inside by these horrible creatures. At that moment, octopuses silently appeared behind him, clinging to the heads of the dead, using the corpses as grotesque puppets. Sensing imminent danger, Fang Cheng turned around, his instincts screaming alarm. His fears were confirmed when he was confronted with the terrifying sight before him. Several of the beasts that had taken the lives of these men were ready to strike, each victim marked by a cavernous cavity in their chest. The predators' fearsome mouths, filled with razor-sharp teeth, were wide open, and their massive orange eyes glared ominously from the shadows. Armed with picks, axes, and sabers, the formidable group advanced toward Fang Cheng. As he watched them approach, Fang Cheng methodically rolled up his sleeves, feeling anxious. Finally, the man-eating octopuses revealed themselves to him. Despite realizing the difficulties he would face against these monsters who thrived on parasitizing human corpses, Fang Cheng remained undeterred. When the monsters converged on him, swinging axes and swords, he quickly dodged their combined attack with stunning speed, landing a few meters away. The octopuses, caught off guard by his agility, did not notice his rapid movement. Since Fang Cheng merged with the demon, even in his human form, he has become much stronger and faster. With a satisfied smile, he turned to the demons and activated the red aura in his left hand. This action demonstrated his ability to partially harness the power of the demon within him. Suddenly, hordes of demons feasting on the corpses of hunters rushed at Fang Cheng in an aggressive onslaught. At that moment, a system window materialized, signaling imminent danger. The automatic activation of the blades startled Fang Cheng as huge red blades materialized from his hands, resembling the limbs of a mantis. He was particularly surprised by their self-initiation, which led him to assume the presence of artificial intelligence inside. Intending to test the capabilities of these blades, Fang Cheng quickly struck the demon, choosing to do so in its human form. At the same time, he launched a lightning attack against another parasitic octopus. A few minutes later, 2 more demons rushed at him, and they were easily cut to pieces by his formidable blades, now soaked in demon blood. Behind him lay the remains of 3 octopuses, indicating that Fang Cheng's ability to gain new powers from these creatures was limited, probably due to their lower E status among demons. Suddenly, distant sounds prompted Fang Cheng to become vigilant and cautious. Opening his mouth slightly and constricting his pupils, he was preparing for what was to come. The man turned around to be greeted by a flock of octopuses, each of which emitted a threatening hiss and rattled its weapons. Fang Cheng was surprised, his brow furrowed in confusion. He realized that he was trapped. The trio of demons he had encountered earlier were just bait. As the demons began to approach the bewildered Fang Cheng, they simultaneously attacked, waving their arms menacingly. Trying to estimate their numbers, Fang Cheng quickly realized that they were endless. Having no other choice, he prepared to defend himself, resorting to violence to repel the advancing enemies. With ruthless efficiency, he began to cut them up, chopping off limbs and slicing open bodies, fighting off the attack with fierce determination. Amidst the chaos, Fang Cheng saw 2 demons rushing at him with axes. His reactions were quick. He managed to cut the formidable figures in half before they could strike. However, despite his efforts, he found himself surrounded on all sides by a huge force of demons. Stunned by their numbers, he couldn't help but wonder if he had inadvertently stumbled upon their stronghold, a thought interrupted by the relentless advance of his enemies. With the tentacles tangled in his school uniform and tied in his hair, Fang Cheng clenched his jaws and defended himself stubbornly. He was left with no alternative. Tentacles and various limbs lashed out in all directions as the man-eating octopuses intensified their attack. Overwhelmed by their sheer numbers, Fang Cheng found his mobility severely restricted. He recognized the futility of his struggle. Lacking the powers of the demon form, he had risen in rank but remained vulnerable. The likelihood of the creatures overwhelming him was getting closer and closer. Deciding to escape, he rushed forward, but the entire horde of demons relentlessly pursued him, not holding back any obstacles. Suddenly, ominous tentacles appeared from the ground that wrapped around Fang Cheng's legs and immobilized him. Frozen in shock, he looked down and saw tentacles that bound him so tightly that it was impossible to move. A D-rank demon known as the Sage Octopus materialized before him. Tall and much more fearsome than the usual man-eating specimens, the Sage Octopus signaled a terrifying turn in Fang Cheng's ordeal. Dressed in clothes decorated with octopuses, the man in front of Fang Cheng exuded a menacing aura. The octopus perched on its head seemed particularly foreboding, its tentacles displaying eerie images that seemed to scream in terror. Clutching a huge scythe, it laughed evilly, announcing its desire to know what kind of prey had fallen into their clutches this time. His gaze shifted to Fang Cheng and disdainfully remarked that Fang Cheng was only a meager shrimp, hardly enough to even be an appetizer. Fang Cheng was horrified to realize that he was facing a D-rank demon. The demon's presence released an aura more terrifying than any blade. As the Sage Octopus approached, Fang Cheng panicked. He shouted commands to his demon subordinates, drawing their attention and ordering them to tear Fang Cheng to pieces and deliver him immediately. Meanwhile, tentacles burst out of the ground, quickly grabbing Fang Cheng, tying not only his legs but also his arms. The huge gathering of octopuses began to approach him, and at that moment, Fang Cheng felt a surge of anger and defiance rise within him. Realizing that he was on the verge of becoming prey to the demons, the whites of his eyes began to turn red as the capillaries in his body burst. The insistent voice in his head ordered him to destroy all his opponents, repeating this command endlessly. Amidst the crowd of predatory octopuses, Fang Cheng's aura turned bright red, symbolizing his descent into a demon. This moment was accentuated by the appearance of a system window labeled Demon Slayer. Activated in his formidable demon form, Fang Cheng quickly turned a group of formidable octopuses into small pieces as soon as he materialized. As the parts of the demon's corpses flew in all directions, Fang Cheng's voice, low and ominous, rang out with an oath. He proclaimed that since they had forced him to take this cursed form, he would make sure that their punishment was unforgettable. With death wishes echoing from his lips, he sliced through the air with his blades, effortlessly slicing through the flesh of his voracious enemies. As he mutilated the demons, cutting off their limbs and distinguishing their forms, the Sage Octopus watched in amazement. The sage did not expect that a human being could turn into such a demon and demonstrate such ferocity. Fang Cheng's brow furrowed in concentration as he fought the advancing creatures, expressing his frustration loud and clear. He only wanted to kill a few lower-ranked demons for a coin, a simple wish, he thought, that now seemed impossible. It was then that the Sage Octopus materialized behind him, letting out an ominous laugh that confused Fang Cheng. The monster ridiculed Fang Cheng in a smug tone, saying that even though he had taken on the form of a demon, he was still just a miserable ant struggling to survive. Fang Cheng's reaction was swift and fierce. His pupils constricted in his deep black eyes as anger pierced through him. Pushing off from the ground with determination, he lunged at the sage, his blades ready for a fatal blow. As he flew through the air, he roared in defiance, challenging the notion that the demon, the self-proclaimed top of the food chain, had the right to judge him, a mere mortal struggling to survive at the bottom. His blades came close to the sage's head, but with a sly move, the demon changed his position to a strong grip, narrowly avoiding the attack. Dodging Fang Cheng's attack, he quickly responded by pushing Fang Cheng aside. The young warrior leapt to his feet, still fueled by a mixture of anger and determination, unfazed but far from defeated. As the waves gently receded along the sandy beach, the Sage Octopus made a surprising statement, recognizing that the young man before him did indeed possess some abilities. With a sharp gesture of his tentacles, however, he criticized his lack of speed. With a quick movement, he entangled Fang Cheng in his limbs, effectively rendering him immobile. Fang Cheng found himself in despair, convinced of his dire situation. The octopus's face twisted into a nasty sneer, mocking the captive man with a statement about his pitiful condition. In the midst of this, strange crunching sounds filled the air. The octopus gleefully announced that it had shattered the blades that Fang Cheng had been proud of, mockingly questioning his next move. The blades that had once been held firmly in his grip were now yanked out and held behind him by the octopus's strong tentacles. To further reduce his chances of escape, the octopus forced Fang Cheng's legs apart. Excessively flaring up, the sage octopus spread its arms wide, and its tentacles emphasized Fang Cheng's vulnerability. In the midst of his struggle, Fang Cheng managed to free his hand in a desperate attempt to gain leverage, but then found himself staring at it in confusion, overwhelmed by the realization of his predicament. Currently unable to recreate his blades, Fang Cheng found himself lifted into the air by the powerful limbs of the sage octopus. With a power throw, Fang Cheng's huge demonic form was sent flying, accompanied by the sage's statement that only the weak deserve to die. This was the brutal truth of their world. Fang Cheng landed heavily near a small hill made of sand and construction debris. Sitting up after the blow, he took a moment to collect his thoughts. The sage octopus seemed to possess a cunning that was far superior to the blade Fang Cheng had fought with earlier. This demon demonstrated a cautious approach, preferring to fight at a medium distance, unlike its more reckless counterparts. From a safe distance, Fang Cheng watched him carefully, not rushing into a reckless attack. He realized that his first step should be to identify the sage's vulnerability. Only then could he try to get closer and deliver a fatal blow. Meanwhile, the sage, wielding a huge scythe, waved it around, showing deadly intent. He questioned Fang Cheng's indecision, mockingly asking where the demon's confidence had gone. When he hit the ground with his heavy scythe, the ground shook violently. If Fang Cheng hadn't ducked quickly, he would have been caught in the shock wave as well. While the debris of the earth was flying in all directions, Fang Cheng focused on identifying the weaknesses of the formidable sage octopus. He quickly noticed that its huge eye, covered with dark capillaries, was its only vulnerable area, and possibly its Achilles heel. Fang Cheng realized that if he simply hit the creature's eye with sand, it could give him a perfect opportunity to attack. Looking back, he recognized that they had been at the sand mound the whole time. As he approached with a smug laugh, the sage octopus mocked him, arrogantly doubting the usefulness of Fang Chen's demon form and asserting his own superiority. Meanwhile, Fang Cheng was already putting his plan into action. With all the strength he could muster, he pushed a handful of sand from the ground toward the sage octopus. The shower of sand hit the animal right on the head, covering its eye. The creature howled in agony and hurled curses at Fang Cheng, temporarily going blind as it clutched its eye with both tentacles. Fang Cheng approached his enemy, waving his arms with the conviction that any tactic is acceptable in a battle with a creature like the sage octopus. He struck the solar plexus hard, causing the demon to moan in agony. The sage octopus, enduring indescribable pain, raised its head and opened its swollen eye, screaming in its suffering and frantic need to shed its current form. Watching his opponent in agony, Fang Cheng was surprised to realize that the demon could detach itself from its main body. Noticing a spear nearby, he grabbed it, his rage and desire to kill intensifying his actions. "You won't escape," he said, plunging the spear into the head of the sage octopus. The creature fell to the ground with a painful groan, lying conscious but motionless. In its prone state, the octopus sage believed that Fang Cheng had fortunately not caused any serious brain damage. It decided that the best way was to fake death and bide its time to recover a bit. It silently vowed revenge, planning its return in full time. Fang Cheng realized the danger of underestimating the cunning octopus. Knowing that he could not let his guard down even for a moment, he cautiously approached the seemingly defeated creature from behind, armed with another spear. Sensing Fang Cheng's approach, the sage octopus turned its lone eye toward him, its gaze sharp and penetrating. Reflecting quickly, Fang Cheng raised his sword hands and frantically attacked the octopus, furiously chopping at its body. The octopus let out a piercing scream as a series of new system windows appeared, announcing, "You have killed the sage octopus. I've gained a new tentacle ability." From the depths of the wound on his left arm, a demonic black tentacle dotted with red stripes emerged, wriggling in a chaotic dance. Fang Cheng regarded this new addition with a combination of wariness and curiosity, given its potential usefulness in mid-range combat and as an improvised rope. When the dust settled, another system window appeared, announcing a significant change. The desire to kill has disappeared, and you have returned to your human form. With this transformation, the demonic exterior that had been enveloping him began to crack and fall away, revealing Fang Cheng's true face once again. Heaving a deep sigh and grabbing his head, the man's disappointment was palpable. The demonic shell enveloping him dissolved into a dark aura, and Fang Cheng clutched his sides in terrible agony. This time his transformation into the demon slayer form did not regenerate his body as usual. Grimacing, he wiped the drops of blood from his mouth, a testament to the cost of this victory. Despite the enormous difficulties, he had managed to defeat the Sage Octopus, a D-ranked demon, proving that he was much more than just a rival in battles against the voracious man-eating creatures. Spectators on the street stared in amazement, asking about the sight before them, while others felt a wave of nausea overcome them from the spectacle laid out on the road. This was the public reaction to Fang Cheng, who tied all the octopuses, including their leader, with ropes and threw them over his body. Decorated from head to toe with the corpses of demons, he could barely move under their weight. He realized that saving on transportation might have been a mistake, especially because the body of the Sage Octopus was extremely heavy. Fang Cheng floated along the tree-lined alley, each step a reminder of the day's grueling events. You followed the directions correctly. You arrived at the Hunters Union building, a place where people are rewarded for killing demons. Fang Cheng found himself in front of a majestic skyscraper decorated with countless windows. Around the entrance stood two tall statues of figures with swords, their figures wearing hoods. As Fang Cheng approached, he noticed two people guarding the door of the Dong City Hunters Union office. Upon entering, Fang Cheng saw a bustling waiting area. It was crowded with people and the dead bodies of the demons they had defeated, brought in as proof of their deeds. A modest line stretched out at the front desk. Observing his surroundings, Fang Cheng couldn't help but feel cramped, noticing the presence of many experienced hunters who made their living slaying demons. Behind him stood two guards in black uniforms and dark glasses looking down on him. They were loudly discussing the reward Fang Cheng was carrying on his back, the head of a D-rank demon, the Octopus Sage, making it obvious to those around him. Hearing the voices, Fang Cheng turned around and saw the Hunters Union inspectors looking at him with suspicion, which left him puzzled and anxious. Their gazes were questioning, as if they doubted his accomplishments. Fang Cheng's anxiety turned to tension, his lips pressed tightly together in anticipation of a confrontation. One of the inspectors questioned with outright rudeness the plausibility of a rookie and student like Fang Cheng defeating a D-ranked demon. The other inspector crossed his arms over his chest, scrunching his face in displeasure, cynically insinuating that Fang Cheng had probably stolen someone's conquest. Fang Cheng looked up to meet them, hurt and irritated by their accusations. He couldn't understand why they found it so hard to believe that a student could achieve such a feat. In response, the inspectors took a threatening tone, demanding that he prove his allegations by showing his hunter's license. Fang Cheng looked at them with a stern, unwavering gaze, remembering the rules. Hunters Union inspectors had no authority to demand a hunter's identification without provocation. It was clear to him that this inspection was groundless. The inspectors, believing that they had the right to confiscate what they considered to be illegally obtained from innocent souls, aggressively confronted Fang Cheng. They accused him of panicking and trying to physically overpower him to take possession of his property. Quickly reacting, Fang Cheng escaped their grip, and this move took them by surprise. The commotion attracted the attention of passers-by who shouted, indicating that a fight was taking place. Fang Cheng, tense and frowning, decided not to give his hard-won fines to the inspectors. Among the onlookers, a man with a scarred face and an observant eye observed the situation. He couldn't help but admire Fang Cheng for his agility and strength, especially considering the weight he was carrying. This man with expressive green eyes, blonde hair and beard, wearing a hat and a large jacket, realized that there was more to Fang Cheng than met the eye. The confrontation escalated when one of the inspectors, who could be recognized by his bald head, roughly confronted Fang Cheng, demanding to know why he was trying to escape. Fang Cheng, being on the alert, prepared for a confrontation. He easily blocked the bald inspector's punch, his expression unchanged. Fang Cheng's balanced and calculated response indicated his readiness to defend his rights against their unjustified aggression. In response, the person hit the inspector in the face, causing him to fall. As Fang Cheng was inspecting the floor, the second inspector quietly approached from behind, intending to incapacitate him with a blow to the head. However, Fang Cheng was on the alert. He quickly dodged the attack, grabbed the inspector by the torso and threw him onto his colleague, who was already on the ground. The audience was impressed by the short fight, marveling at Fang Cheng's exceptional skills. A murmur spread among the crowd, with some suggesting that Fang Cheng would surely suffer consequences for his actions. The inspectors lying on the floor moaning in pain were a testament to Fang Cheng's prowess. It was then that a man emerged from the audience and attracted attention by announcing the end of the fight. Fang Cheng drew attention to this new figure, who turned out to be Yu Tai, the vice president of the Hunters Union. With a smile and a tip of his hat, Yu Tai noted Fang Cheng's exceptional performance. He noted Fang Cheng's youth, but praised his ability to defeat a D-ranked demon. The beaten inspectors, gathering themselves from the floor, joined Yu Tai. Among them, a bald inspector began to voice his grievances, but it was clear that Fang Cheng had made a significant impression. The man tearfully claimed that he was the first aggressor before pleading with them to settle the situation. His colleague, expressing solidarity, accused the accused of disrespecting the Hunters Union. Yu Tai watched the exchange with obvious disapproval. Meanwhile, Fang Cheng, unsure of the outcome, watched the confrontation unfold in silence. Yu Tai, clearly displeased, rolled his eyes and rebuked them, calling them blind to the true strength of their opponent. He questioned their courage in pressing charges after they had provoked the attack themselves. When the bald inspector tried to intervene, perhaps to object, Yu Tai's menacing gaze silenced him. The unyielding Yu Tai announced their dismissal, saying that there was no place for such incompetence in the Hunters Union. The now former inspectors began to sob, looking in vain for the vice president's sympathy. But Yu Tai had already pulled away, no longer acknowledging their presence. Approaching Fang Cheng, Yu Tai smiled and said nothing, leaving a moment between them. Why was unexpectedly friendly, and asked about the power that Fang Cheng had awakened. Faced with it, Fang Cheng could not say. He looked down and admitted that he had not yet awakened any power. Choosing deception, he concealed the truth about his demonic form, believing that it was too dangerous to reveal it. The surrounding crowd of hunters overheard his statement and reacted with astonished gasps. They asked how it was possible that he had not awakened any power, claiming that without any supernatural abilities he could not have defeated these formidable enemies. A girl among the audience expressed her skepticism, suggesting that Fang Cheng was hiding the truth. Yu Tai, with a satisfied smile, put his hand on Fang Cheng's shoulder and expressed his belief in Fang Cheng's words. Stunned by this show of trust, Fang Cheng felt a mixture of embarrassment and relief as he prepared for a much worse reaction. As they walked to the office, Yu Tai mentioned that he would bring Fang Cheng to receive a reward for his actions. Gratefully, but with a tinge of modesty and embarrassment, Fang Cheng thanked the vice president. Meanwhile, the crowd erupted into a flurry of whispers and speculation about the mysterious newcomer. Upon his arrival, the man was warmly greeted by Vice President Yu Tai. When they entered the office, Fang Cheng carefully placed the sage octopus on the desk. The woman sitting at the desk effortlessly used telepathy to take the rest of the items from his hands. She introduced herself as Xiong Nan, revealing her role in the Hunters Union as the overseer of the distribution of rewards to hunters. Xiong Nan, dressed in a gray skirt suit complemented by a clean white shirt, wore glasses and had blue hair neatly pulled back into a high ponytail. The sight of her surprised Fang Cheng. He concluded that she must have superior abilities to handle the presence of demon corpses so easily. Vice President Yu Tai smiled meaningfully at Fang Cheng, assuring him that in the future, if he had more demon corpses to deliver, there would be no need to stand in line. He could have directly addressed Xiong Nan. In a light-hearted joke, he smiled, playfully suggesting that since Xiong Nan was still single, Fang Cheng might consider courting her. This comment left Xiong Nan visibly embarrassed and confused, prompting her to gently ask Yu Tai to refrain from such jokes in the future. Fang Cheng could only fix his hair in embarrassment, feeling an uncomfortable tension in the air. Looking down and putting his hand on his head, Fang Cheng expressed his gratitude to Jutai, but admitted that he was embarrassed by the warm welcome he received. Jutai replied, revealing a connection between the two, stating that despite their differences, they had similarities. Fang Cheng, puzzled, looked up to meet Jutai's gaze. The vice president winked and smiled broadly, sharing that he too had never awakened any special powers. However, he never let that deter him, devoting himself to tirelessly improving his physical abilities and his skill with weapons. Through dedication and grueling training, he managed to outperform many hunters who had such abilities. Fang Cheng was amazed by this discovery. He found it hard to believe that Jutai could rise to the position of vice president in the Hunters' Union without any innate ability, just through his perseverance and effort. Zonin stepped forward and handed Fang Cheng a bank card with the reward he was due, 100,000 yuan for defeating the Sage Octopus, and an additional 30,000 yuan for killing 10 E-class demons. In addition to these amounts, Fang Cheng was also entitled to a bonus of 100,000 yuan, bringing the total reward to 140,000 yuan. The money had already been transferred to his card. Fang Cheng was surprised. He thanked, his eyes sparkling as he looked at the bank card. Holding so much money in his hands for the first time, he was stunned. Jutai, crossing his arms, recalled that he had watched Fang Cheng fight earlier that day. Noticing his lack of experience, he offered to teach Fang Cheng a few tricks the next time he came. Fang Cheng smiled gratefully, thanking him again. Xiong Nan watched the exchange from her desk. She noticed the monotony of the men who seemed only interested in fighting and training. However, Fang Cheng's handsome appearance caught her attention, and she wondered what kind of girls he favored. Meanwhile, Fang Cheng pondered the opportunity that was in front of him. Zai was an incredibly strong hunter, and it would be foolish not to learn from someone of his level. Looking at the bank card with satisfaction, he realized that his first task was to hurry home and tell his sister, who had unwavering faith in him, that he had finally started earning money. It was evening outside. Thousands of stars littered the sky, and lights gradually flashed in the windows of neighboring buildings. Fang Cheng trudged home along the bustling street, weaving through the crowd until he reached a pedestrian crossing. He stopped to take a bank card out of his pocket, looking at it with a glint of joy in his eyes. It was his first paycheck, and he was sure his sister would share his excitement when she heard the news. As he continued on his way, the light of digital billboards with the latest news caught his eye. A demon had been spotted nearby. To his surprise, this demon looked strikingly similar to Fang Cheng's own demonic form. Curious spectators crowded around the screens, their interest piqued by the unfolding story. Fang Cheng listened intently in disbelief as the announcer reported on a recent video that had appeared on the web. The footage shows a fierce battle between two demons, and netizens dubbed one of them the Demon King. Behind the host, an image of Fang Cheng in his demonic form flashed on the screen. He stared, mouth agape, trying to comprehend the reality before him. In his mind, he replayed the scene where he had dispatched these men during the confrontation with Blade, only to find that they had shared a video of their encounter online. And worse, it was being broadcast on various news platforms. The TV anchor was eagerly covering the details of the incident. Their reporter managed to get an interview with the deputy head of the demon hunting department, Duan, who is also recognized by the nickname Lone Wolf. Duan was found at the scene of the fight between Blade and Fang Cheng, who was holding a press conference attended by numerous spectators. He assured that demons would never side with humans, and urged the locals not to harbor any illusions about their intentions. With a stare, he announced the department's commitment to apprehend this so-called Demon King as soon as possible, vowing to destroy him. Clutching a photograph of Fang Cheng in his demonic guise, Duan boldly tore it apart as he concluded his speech. This act made the young man watch in horror, his eyes riveted to the screen, burdened with uncertainty about his next move. People started discussing the latest news when the guy in the hat mentioned that he had heard that the Demon King was fighting another demon to protect people. His friend dismissed it as nonsense, saying that demons don't save people. Another passerby suggested that if the demon was really helping people, he should be considered a hero, not the Demon King. Fang Cheng, overhearing their conversation, tensed up. He did not expect his transformation to arouse such public interest. This attention was far from pleasant for Fang Cheng. It was imperative that his identity remain a secret to prevent any problems for him and his older sister. Arriving in the suburb of Dong, filled with nondescript houses tightly packed together, Fang Cheng headed home. Upon entering the apartment, he announced his arrival. His sister, who was cooking, greeted him with a big smile. Curious about the enticing aroma that filled the house, he asked what she was cooking. She came out to meet him, relieved and happy to see him back, because she had been worried about his whereabouts. Confused, she asked about the source of her worry. Pulling out her smartphone, she showed a photo of Fang Cheng in his demon form, and mentioned with fear in her voice that she had come across a video of the Demon King online. She urged Fang Cheng to be careful on the streets. With a tired sigh, Fang Cheng turned to her, hardly believing that she had stumbled upon this too. Taking his older sister by the hand, he smiled reassuringly at her and asked her not to worry, explaining that it was just a video circulating on the internet. Later, Fang Cheng pulled out a bank card with a tinge of pride and excitedly shared that he had managed to earn 140,000 yuan that day alone. His sister's eyes widened in surprise at the discovery. With a confident smile, he explained that his income came from his endeavors in demon hunting, a skill he honed through years of rigorous training that greatly enhanced his strength, allowing him to confront demons directly. His older sister's face lit up with joy, and hopefully she asked if he had unlocked his power. Fang Cheng, a little embarrassed and confused by the question, scratched the back of his head, leaving his question unanswered. Looking at him with a combination of concern and curiosity, she asked if he had suffered any injuries. Realizing the dangerous nature of demon hunting, she could hardly imagine the trials Fang Cheng must have faced. As he handed her the bank card, he assured her of his well-being, encouraging her to use the money at her disposal. With a mixture of silence and reluctance, she acknowledged that the funds would be used to pay off debts, a necessity that had become very common after the death of their parents, which often forced them to borrow from relatives. Fang Cheng's face changed from seriousness to terrifying determination when he asked if she knew anything about the demon responsible for their parents' deaths. Looking down sadly, she admitted that the demon's identity remains a mystery, as evidenced by the lack of answers in official documents. They were killed by a demon shrouded in flames, who disappeared without a trace immediately after unleashing these horrors. Subsequently, the entire street was engulfed in fierce flames, with people burning alive among the ruins. That was all his older sister could tell him. He listened to her, his expression thoughtful. A voice inside him told him that the demon they faced was far from ordinary. Looking ahead with determination, Fang Cheng clenched his fist, making a silent vow to confront the demon when it was strong enough. As an experienced hunter, Jutai probably had valuable information about this demon. With this in mind, Fang Cheng planned to track him down later for more information. In a moment, she gently cupped his face in her hands, a sad smile flickering across her lips. She quietly told him that they were not yet strong enough to take revenge. Their best chance was to seek happiness together. Fang Cheng, taken aback by her gesture, turned his face away, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Despite his excitement, he admitted that he understood what she meant. The next day, Fang Cheng went to the Tongju Hunter Academy. The weather was beautiful outside, but he was late for class and had to hurry. His preoccupation with financial matters from the previous day had made him forget about his studies. As he raced through the corridors of the academy, his haste was caused by a breeze that inadvertently lifted the girl's skirt. A dejected Fang Cheng quickly turned away, a clumsy apology on his lips. Fang Cheng entered the classroom and heard his classmates discussing the topic that seemed to be on everyone's lips. One of them mentioned that the Demon King had recently become a hot topic, even making the news, and commented on how cool this demon was. Interestingly, another classmate offered a question, wondering if someone who saves people can really be called a demon. As Fang Cheng sat down tiredly in his seat, he couldn't help but feel exhausted by the incessant chatter on this topic, even among his peers. When he thought he had heard enough, Wang Yo walked over to him. Noticing a change in him, Fang Cheng turned his head in her direction and noticed her observant gaze. Crossing her arms, she remarked on how much stronger he seemed compared to when he faced the bullies. Trying to dismiss her remarks, Fang Cheng laughed awkwardly, suggesting that she was just seeing things. But deep down, he was impressed by her keen intuition. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of the hooligans, led by Chen, who was nonchalantly eating from his plate. Chen snickered, throwing a sarcastic comment at them about lovebirds talking early in the morning, interrupting the moment with his mockery. In the morning, Long Yu's displeasure was palpable as her friends burst into laughter. She turned a dark gaze on them, her patience breaking down. As the air around her began to spin, she warned that perhaps she had been too lenient earlier. Fang Cheng stepped forward with a smug smile on his face and suggested that Chen's provocations be ignored. Chen, visibly irritated by Fang Cheng's dismissive remarks, refused to have breakfast. His eyes burned with anger as he accused Fang Cheng of courting him to death. Demonstrating his strength, Chen threw his bowl of noodles at Fang Cheng, promising a beating despite Long Yu's presence. In the heat of the moment, he responded by plunging Chen's face into a plate, wetting it with noodles and broth. Fang Cheng's voice sounded frustrated, showing that such confrontations had been a constant theme for 3 years. Not allowing himself to be mocked any longer, he pushed Chenang away with force, causing him to stumble backward. The enraged bully slapped his hand on the floor and demanded to know when Fang Cheng had become so bold. Rising from the ground, Chenang rushed at Fang Cheng, waving his arms and calling him a loser, questioning his newfound courage. Fang Cheng skillfully dodged the attack, and this move caught Chenang by surprise, as he expected Fang Cheng to remain passive and absorb the blows, as he had done in previous encounters. Meeting Chenang's disdainful gaze, Fan Chan coolly asked if this was his ability. With his eyes squinting in anger, Chenang turned to him, but he was quickly subdued. Fan Chang grabbed his shoulder and kneed him sharply in the stomach, causing Chenang to cough and crash into the wall under the astonished gazes of their classmates. The defeated Chenang was left flattened, scratched, and bleeding, a clear indication of the changing dynamics. With surprise in his voice, he asked how Fang Chen had acquired such tremendous strength and agility. Fang Chen approached him, stopping right in front of him, and stated that circumstances had changed. He calmly reminded his former tormentor that before abusing someone, one should think about the day when retribution will come. Almost instantly, a crowd of classmates materialized behind Fang Cheng, eagerly discussing the latest turn of events. Some questioned whether this was really the same Fang Cheng they knew. Others were impressed by his ability to defeat the bully single-handedly, and some simply laughed and cheered Fang Cheng on, anticipating the confrontation to continue. Meanwhile, Fang Cheng looked at Chan, who lay defeated and unable to get up, with an expression of disbelief. Tai, watching the fight from afar, was overwhelmed with wonder. The rational part of her struggled to understand how, despite all of Fang Cheng's diligent training and efforts, he could improve so quickly to defeat Chento so decisively. Walking up to Fang Cheng, she touched her chin thoughtfully, her gaze fixed on him. It occurred to her that his movements were too fast and powerful for someone of his training level, which made her wonder about the nature of his sudden advancement. A normal observer would have asked if the sudden surge in body-strengthening ability was awakened when the command suddenly stopped everything in its tracks. Long Yu and Fang Cheng, prompted by the authoritative voice, turned around and saw a teacher from the Hunter Academy approaching. He was a middle-aged man with dark hair and glasses. Today he announced that the Academy would be conducting tests on demon encounters and ordered everyone to follow him. This unexpected announcement sent the students into a state of bewilderment and subsequent panic as they wondered if they would face real demons. Meanwhile, Chen Yu managed to survive, helped by friends who lifted him off the ground. Despite his defeat, he warned Fang Cheng, saying that he was not done with him yet. Fang Cheng, for his part, cast an indifferent glance at Chen Yu, choosing to remain silent. Despite his calm exterior, Fang Cheng felt a surge of anger at Chen Yu's words, but he remained silent. He recognized Chen Yu as an unpredictable and formidable opponent who could not be provoked carelessly. As the situation grew more and more dire, Fang Cheng knew that he would have to confront the looming threat as soon as the opportunity arose. The students walked to the back gate of Hunter Academy, where they were greeted by a view of majestic mountains. At their base was a dense forest, to which a wide path led. The gate itself, tall and decorated with cloud-shaped motifs, was guarded by 2 guards. At the front of the eager crowd of students stood a teacher, ready to give important instructions. He stressed the importance of listening carefully, announcing that with the final exam approaching, the Academy had decided to conduct a demon hunting test, a task designed to accelerate their growth. It was also an invaluable opportunity for students to improve their grades, he said. The teacher walked up to the gate, positioning himself between the muscular guards, and announced that after leaving the Hunter Academy, the students would encounter rank F grass demons. He explained that defeating even one of these demons would allow them to absorb its essence, thus turning a dangerous challenge into a potential boon for their development. As soon as the teacher finished speaking, the students immediately began talking among themselves. The dark-haired boy mentioned that F-rank demons were not much different from ordinary beasts, and he was confident that he could defeat at least 10 of them. The student with long hair boasted that the test seemed too easy for him. Chen, smiling confidently and crossing his arms, warned the others not to interfere with his demons. Standing next to Fang Cheng, Long asked for his thoughts on the upcoming demon hunt. Fang Cheng, absorbed in thought, mentioned that the real danger was not the demons themselves, but the competition among students, emphasizing the need to be careful. The teacher, trying to regain the attention of the group, loudly announced the opening of the gates and ordered everyone to get ready. 2 guards opened a heavy high gate that led into a forest filled with demons. Chen and his followers, eager to get the first essences, rushed to the gate. The other students proceeded more cautiously, each absorbed in their own strategy for the challenge ahead. Upon entering the gate in the forest, many bones lay among the damp earth, including a human skull. Fang Cheng reached out with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation to examine the bone he had picked up from the ground. Wu Yu, standing a step behind, asked what he hoped to find among the remains of the deceased. Fang Cheng remarked with disbelief in his tone how unexpectedly formidable the grass demons that had killed the man were. A sudden noise in the bushes brought them to heightened alert. Fang Cheng shouted, his voice cutting through the silence, alerting them to the presence of someone or something fast approaching. Long Yu turned her head toward the source of the commotion, her eyes widening as she saw the demons moving toward them. The appearance of these demons so quickly puzzled her, her mind struggling with their sudden appearance. The grass demons were a grotesque mixture of features, looking like overgrown grasshoppers and mantises, albeit with the added horrifying detail of green wings growing out of their backs. They laid siege to the duo, strategically positioning themselves both on the forest floor and among the branches above, effectively surrounding them. Wu Yu, referring to the essence of her wind abilities, ordered Fang Cheng to hide behind her, emphasizing his inability to withstand the onslaught of so many enemies. With their backs to each other, they prepared for the upcoming confrontation. Fang Cheng, despite the terrifying difficulties, prepared to confront the invaders, deciding to hold the ground with Wu Yu. Claiming that everything was under control and he could handle it, Fang Cheng's ability to deal with several grass demons at once with one blow surprised the girl. He shattered their chitinous exterior and easily broke their limbs. Noticing the other creatures approaching from behind, Fang Cheng saw the demons rush at Long Yu, ready to strike. She didn't even realize that danger was looming, but Fang Cheng quickly intervened, dispersing the demons with swift accuracy. He reminded Long Yu to always be aware of her surroundings. Long Yu was amazed at the sight before her. She tried to reconcile the sight of Fang Cheng effortlessly exorcising demons, moving smoothly from one to the next, with the person she thought she knew. The remains of demons dotted the area around him, but he seemed to have noticed something amiss. The grass demons were much weaker than the ones he had encountered before. Looking from a distance, the scene unfolding before her seemed surreal to Long Yu. She expressed her concern, marveling at how Fang Cheng had grown so much stronger in just a few days. To her, he seemed almost unrecognizable, prompting her to ask how such a transformation could have occurred. Chen walked by, a subtle smile gracing his face, and mused aloud that humans evolve over time. He suggested that they begin their quest to collect the mystical demon herbal essence, which he said rose into the air in the form of emerald droplets floating directly into their palms. Suddenly, Long Yu's attention was distracted by a commotion. When she asked about the disturbance, she noticed 2 students to her right running and shouting about a huge demon nearby. Long Yu clenched her fists and said with a determined expression, "It's my turn to engage in battle." Although she hadn't anticipated the presence of other demons nearby, Fang Cheng cast an anxious glance at the approaching figure, expressing her concern that this was no ordinary demon. A colossal entity, strikingly similar to a barren tree, rushed toward them. Its shape was humanoid, but it consisted entirely of wood. Fang Cheng, his eyes wide with panic, recognized the creature as a terrible tree demon. Gritting her teeth and preparing for the encounter, she watched as the wood demon charged at them, baring its teeth menacingly. Long Yu asked why a D-rank demon appeared in the E-rank demon training grounds. Fang Cheng confidently replied that now was not the time to speculate about such matters, and it would be wiser to stay away from the demon. When he put his hand on Long Yu's shoulder, she felt a mixture of embarrassment and a deep blush color her cheeks. She remembered the first time Fang Cheng touched her. Suddenly, Chen Yu came out of the forest with a wild expression in his eyes, and his friends followed him, each of them carrying some kind of weapon. He laughed mockingly, confident that the cowardly Long Yu and Fang Cheng would try to escape. They came up with wooden spears in their hands. Chen Yu proclaimed that a true demon hunter must be prepared to face death. Fang Cheng laughed softly as she watched them, and Long Yu jokingly asked if she had hit Chen Yu on the head too hard last time. Chen Yu and his team positioned themselves in front of the pair, ready to confront the wood demon. The demon, visibly enraged, exhaled smoke as it stared fiercely at Chen Yu, who stood his ground, confidently declaring that today he intended to prove his detractors wrong by personally killing the demon. Inwardly, he hoped that this show of strength would finally make them recognize his power and stop admiring the seemingly favored Fang Cheng. Meanwhile, the rest of the students sought shelter behind trees and rocks, silently watching the approaching confrontation. One student pondered Chen's ability to defeat such a large enemy, while a timid girl peeked out from her hiding place to label the creature as a fearsome forest demon. A student with a modest beard observed Chen's self-confidence, noting his fearless approach to the tree demon. Another observer, who could be distinguished by his hat, thought that Chen might actually have a chance to win. Chen, determined, filled his wooden spear with his power, concealing it with a bright red lightning bolt. With a battle cry, he rushed at the demon, dismissing it as a larger version of the weaker grass demons he had encountered before. When he tried to plunge his spear into the demon's chest, the creature effortlessly grabbed the weapon with his hand. Then he grabbed Chen, growling menacingly as he tightened his grip. Looking at him, Chen was overcome with fear, not anticipating that he would be stopped. The demon unclenched his fist, releasing Chen, who then fell to the ground, lying on his back. His henchmen rushed to his side, their faces carved with obvious fear. Despite being weakened, Chen ordered them to help him quickly. However, before they could react, the demon swung his leg, delivering a kick that knocked all three hooligans to the ground. Fang Cheng watched the obviously one-sided battle with Long Yu. The girl remarked that while Chen could withstand a crowd of smaller grass demons, he didn't stand a chance against a wooden demon. Recognizing the significant difference between their strengths, the boy agreed, handing over the task of bridging the gap in their ranks. The wood demon watched with a smug smile as Chen, beaten, expressed his concern over yet another setback. Fang Cheng and Long Yu approached him in unison. The girl suggested that they join forces to confront the demon, suggesting that they could gather a lot of materials from his defeat. Agreeing to her plan, the boy expressed his willingness to participate, hinting at the possible rewards of their joint efforts. The demon was too attractive a target to simply overlook. When the tree demon noticed their presence, he glared at them, causing the group of students who had been hiding to panic. The dark-haired young man was particularly surprised when Fang Cheng and Long Yu decided to deal with the demon directly, and the other student rushed into the forest, insisting that they must quickly inform the teacher. The guy in the hat tried to call him back, but in vain. Meanwhile, Shantanu's followers tried to drag him off the battlefield, urging him to flee as they were no match for the tree demon. However, Shantanu fiercely resisted their attempts to pull him away. He resolutely ordered them to release him, saying that he would rather face death than be rescued by Fang Cheng and Long Yu. In the midst of the chaos, the girl unleashed her wind power against the demon, and it raised its hands to its face in defense, managing to block her attack. However, the demon smiled smugly, unharmed and visibly amused by her attempt. Long Yu watched this with concern on his face, amazed that her wind powers hadn't left a mark on the demon. All the while, Fang Cheng watched the monster closely, contemplating their next move. While planning their approach to deal with the formidable enemy before them, The demon they faced was no ordinary foe. His body was encased in impenetrable hardwood armor that protected him from damage. The only hope of defeating him was to expose his elusive weakness. When the demon raised his hands with clenched fists, he slammed them against the ground with great force. In response, many branches and twigs popped up, twisting into a dangerous tangle that threatened to trap them. Fang Cheng found himself sandwiched between two advancing branches. Despite his valiant efforts to repel them, the branches advanced relentlessly, his pupils constricted with realization, his wide eyes reflecting the gravity of their situation. He knew that without transformation, victory was impossible. Yet turning into a demon in Long Yu's presence was a risk he hesitated to take. With a quick movement, Long Yu jumped over the demon's sprawling branches. Landing gracefully, she turned to face the demon, her skill undoubtedly superior, but her attacks left no mark on him. The demon's lips curled into a sinister smile at her futile attempts. Seizing the moment, Fang Cheng grabbed Long Yu, urging her to flee, insisting that there was no time to lose. He begged her to put her safety first and escape. As they retreated, the tree demon threw another wave of branches in a relentless attack, making their escape more difficult and cementing its reputation as an unyielding foe. Fang Cheng quickly pushed the girl out of the demon's formidable grip of the branches, urging her to run away without looking back, assuring her that he would handle what was left. The girl, surprised, hesitated, not wanting to leave him to face the formidable demon alone. As she retreated, the branches turned into tall tree pillars, hiding the fading face of Long Yu, who was calling Fang Cheng by name. The barricade surrounded Fang Cheng and the demon, and Long Yu, who was now outside, used her wind power. Fulfilling her resolve, she vowed to break down the barrier and save Fang Cheng. The wood demon, sensing the threat, let out a thunderous roar, ready to eliminate Fang Cheng, who stood defiantly in front of it. In the midst of the tension, Fang Cheng began his transformation into a formidable demon, realizing that he must defeat the tree demon before Long Yu can penetrate the thicket. When the malevolent demon raised his fist, dealing a fatal blow to Fang Cheng, he found him in the last throes of his transformation. With new strength, Fang Cheng cut off the wooden arm of the demon, demonstrating his strength and determination. The effectiveness of blade arms was undoubtedly impressive. After cutting off the wooden demon's limb, Fang Cheng jumped to it. The demon growled, surrounding the stump of his forearm with a green aura. He used his regenerative power, and in a few seconds a new arm popped up. Fang Cheng turned around, horrified to see the fully restored limb he had just cut off. Without hesitation, he rushed at the demon, knowing that he could not give it time to recover. Coming face to face, Fang Cheng leapt up and slashed with his blade, but the demon was only lightly wounded. In response, the monster burrowed underground. From below, it sent out dozens of sharp branches reaching for Fang Cheng. He quickly dodged the attack, hovering in the air for a moment. Realizing that this was his best moment to counterattack, the demon slowed down for a moment after the attack. Fang Cheng decided to use the tentacles he had acquired in his previous rank. Dark tentacles with blade tips came out of Fang Cheng's hands as he decided to join forces to quickly defeat the wood demon. The tentacles reached for their target, taking the monster by surprise. Fang Cheng cut through the dense tree trunks that covered the wood demon. A few minutes later, having broken through all the defense mechanisms, it stuck its tentacle blades into the creature's body, tearing through its armor. The monster let out a terrifying scream before disintegrating into a pile of shards. As the tentacles and blades disappeared, Fang Cheng realized that the demon was defeated. System notifications popped up. You have defeated the tree demon. You have gained the ability Summon Tree Spikes. You have gained the ability Regeneration. Fang Cheng's demonic form began to fade away with the demon's defeat. Unexpectedly, he received 2 abilities in this one encounter. Turning around, he looked at the remains left by the wood demon, its essence still hovering in the air. Fang Cheng approached him and began to draw his essence with his hand. It was of high quality, exactly what he needed. Perhaps this would be the catalyst for the awakening of his true power. Suddenly, to his right, he heard a noise and a roar. It was Long who was making her way through the trees, driven by the force of the wind. She told Fang Cheng to wait, promising to help him soon. Imagine her surprise when she arrived to find no trace of the forest demon. With shock in her voice, she asked Fang Cheng if he had really mastered the necessary skill. Fang Cheng, smiling in embarrassment and scratching his head, looked at his hands and discovered that he had indeed awakened a power that had strengthened his body, making him much stronger. He went on to explain that the forest demon had greatly underestimated him, allowing him to take advantage of his mistake and defeat him. Long looked at him with concern and a frown. She commented on his rapid progression, suggesting that Fang Cheng had only recently begun to tap into his potential. When she was an ordinary person, she found it hard to believe that he had become so formidable in such a short period. Fang Cheng approached her with a smile, explaining that the creature they had encountered was just a D-rank demon, not as formidable as she had perceived. He said that there were A or even S-rank demons roaming the world, much more terrifying than the ones they had encountered. Long Yu was comforted by his words, feeling reassured. She agreed with him, realizing that it was time to broaden her horizons, and suggested that they leave the forest. Eventually, the test was over. During the celebration, the teacher announced to the students that he wanted to recognize the achievements of old boy Long Yu and Fang Cheng. As they stood beside him, the man hugged them with a laugh, proclaiming that they had exceeded all expectations by defeating the wood demon. Wang Yu and Fang Cheng exchanged disgruntled glances, feeling uneasy amidst the celebration. Tension grew among the students, and one purple-haired man expressed skepticism about Fang Cheng's feat. Wanting to help Long in the battle against the tree demon, the hat-wearing man agreed, exclaiming that Fang Cheng was probably just biding his time, waiting for the headman to take action. With a look of displeasure, the girl crossed her arms over her chest and questioned the value of praise without accompanying rewards. Meanwhile, sinking into his bitterness, Chen thought to himself that Fang Cheng did not deserve such praise, believing that it was he who should have defeated the demon. It was then that a man dressed in a formal suit approached Fang Cheng and the teacher, asking if Fang Cheng was a student in that class because someone was looking for him. The teacher expressed surprise, and Fang Cheng felt an attack of embarrassment. He couldn't think of anyone other than his sister who might be looking for him, which gave him an uncomfortable feeling. In the schoolyard, Duan was smoking when his subordinate came up with the news that they had found Fang Cheng. Duan turned his head, noticing Fang Cheng making his way toward him. As soon as Fang Cheng looked at Duan, he was struck with recognition. It was the man in question in the news, the deputy of the demon hunting department. A surge of fear shot through Fang Cheng, haunted by the possibility that his transformation had been revealed. But at that moment he decided that it was useless to worry. His fists clenched so tightly that they trembled from the force of his tension. He saw no fault in his transformation. After all, his intentions were to maintain his humanity. Duan, throwing his cigarette on the ground, noticed Fang Cheng's quick arrival and asked if he was really Fang Cheng. Answering with a smile, Fang Cheng confirmed his identity, wanting to understand how he could help the demon hunting department. Duan, staring at him with the cold gaze of his only healthy eye, said that a witness had reported seeing a young man 4 days ago saving a little girl from a blade demon. As they got closer, Duan discovered that their investigations had led them to this very meeting. The young man known as Fang Cheng tensed at these words. However, he chose to feign ignorance, forcing a laugh as he rubbed the back of his head. He claimed his innocence, noting that the academy trained them daily for such situations. Lan, who was not convinced, raised his voice in protest. He looked at Fang Cheng closely, revealing that right after he saved the girl, the Demon King appeared and killed Blade. Lan's accusation made Fang Cheng realize that he had been exposed, leaving him unsure of his next move. However, he decided to keep his mask until the very end. Duan looked at him with a gloomy expression. In response, Fang Cheng managed to smile as naturally as possible, recalling how often the Demon King was a topic of conversation on television. As this conversation between Lan and Fang Cheng unfolded, Long Yu quietly approached them. Hiding around the corner, she was trying to understand why the Demon Hunters unit was interested in Fang Cheng. When the wind blew, blowing Duan's gray hair, he noticed based on time and observation. In the realm of surveillance cameras, it was guaranteed that he would have crossed paths with the demon he mentioned. Intrigued, he asked Fang Cheng for more details. These questions embarrassed the man, pushing him into a corner where he had to quickly invent a story. After a moment of silence, he looked down, recognizing that he had indeed encountered a demon. With calmness, Fang Cheng recounted how the demon blade had seriously injured him when he tried to protect the girl. It was during this critical moment that the Demon King appeared. According to his narrative, shortly afterwards, he engaged the Blade Demon, provoking a fierce battle between the two demons, and Fang Cheng could only watch. The man fervently hoped that his fabricated story would go unnoticed. Duan, trying to relieve the tension, took out a cigarette and lit it with a lighter. Curious, the man asked about the demon's whereabouts after his quarrel with the blade. Fang Cheng responded with a calmness that belied the seriousness of their discussion. He admitted that he did not know the demon's further whereabouts. His opponent disappeared almost as quickly as he claimed victory. Duan fixed Fang Cheng with a frosty gaze, warning him not to try to cheat. He made it clear that he had already examined all the available surveillance footage. The surveillance cameras scattered throughout the neighborhood had not revealed any trace of the Demon King, making the man seethe with frustration. He concluded that there could be only one plausible explanation for the mysterious absence. The Demon King had never left. Instead, he speculated, the entity had merged with Fang Cheng, making them indistinguishable. With a deliberate gesture, raising his index and middle fingers, the man released his secret abilities. Fang Cheng's expression turned to a combination of shock and disappointment as a portal materialized overhead in response. A colossal bone hand descended from this ethereal gate, its intent clear. Unprepared for such an attack, there was little Fang Cheng could do but look up, resigned to the enormous power of the challenge. The skeletal arm grabbed him in an unyielding grip, signaling that his attempts to escape were futile. Fang Cheng reluctantly admitted that the strength demonstrated by his captor Duan was on par with that of a plowman, indicating that breaking free was beyond his capabilities. In the midst of this ordeal, a terrified Long Yu emerged from her hiding place. Her voice, filled with fear, called out to Fang Cheng, desperate to help him. However, Duan, not sparing her a glance, summoned an additional bone arm to block her path. With a stern order, he forbade her to interfere, emphasizing that no one had the right to interrupt their confrontation. In the bustling corridors of the demon hunting department, the girl furrowed her brow, a silent testament to the seemingly unbridgeable gulf between them. It was as if the skeletal hands in front of her were imitating the precise movements of their master, weaving an eerie dance of shadows. Despair overwhelmed Fang Cheng's pleas as he begged Duan to believe that he had not merged with the demon. Still, Duan's skepticism was palpable, his response underscored by the grim reality that the evidence pointed to a terrible contradiction. With a gesture as familiar as it was dismissive, Duan pulled a cigarette to his lips, his next words cutting through the tension. He argued that if Fang Cheng really wanted to clear his name, resistance would be futile. Duan decided to reveal the truth on his own terms. The discarded cigarette, now smoldering on the ground, seemed to reflect the fear that flashed across Fang Cheng's face. As Duan's hand hovered ominously over Fang Cheng's chest, his aura pulsing with the promise of revelations yet to come, Fang Cheng braced himself for the worst. The fear of discovery was overwhelming, the possibility that Duan would reveal his darkest secret, that he had in fact succumbed to the demon's embrace. Fang Cheng's mind raged with grim possibilities, the worst of which was being subjected to horrific experiments. Amidst the turmoil of his thoughts, he thought of a secondary but no less formidable outcome. Before he could do any damage, Anora's energy began to circle around the man's chest, penetrating him. Fang Cheng gasped for breath, and his response was reduced to a strangled moan. Duan's eyes widened, his pupils dilated in shock. The reality before him was far from what he had expected. As he withdrew his hand, he noticed Fang Cheng, his face reflecting surprise. Contrary to his expectations, there was no trace of demonic energy in him. Instead, the natural energy of the awakened hunter was flowing through him. Duan admitted his mistake with an expression of remorse. He relaxed his hold and declared the man free. The skeleton arms that had been holding the man down now let go. Despite his release, the man was visibly upset and distressed, gasping for air as he tried to recover. Long Yu, dissatisfied, watched Duan closely and asked Fang Cheng about the likelihood that this Cyclops would leave them alone after his aggressive actions. Still catching his breath, Fang Cheng begged her to drop the subject. Duan stopped, still with her back turned to them, and mentioned that she remembered Fang Cheng. The hint of unseen realization in his tone suggested that a deeper connection or understanding had prompted him to suddenly stop and think. It would not be the last time they met. Fang Cheng, breathing heavily, expressed his desire to never cross paths again. With a tired sigh, he wondered how he had managed to hide the existence of his inner demon. Revealing it would undoubtedly mean trouble for Fang Cheng. Long came over, concerned, and asked how he was feeling. He smiled reassuringly at her, saying that everything was fine, and expressed his hope that the demon hunting department would stop blaming the innocent. Long's sympathetic gaze met his, recognizing their shared concerns of the day. She then suggested with a sweet nod of her head that they should seek solace elsewhere after such a stressful day. Fang Cheng, blushing slightly at this suggestion, humbly accepted the invitation to lunch. Inwardly, he doubted her intentions, wondering if Long really meant for them to dine together. As they walked through the bustling shopping district of Tongju, the idea surprised him, hinting at the possibility of spending an evening under the stars in good company. A noble crowd had gathered under a dark blue sky sporadically covered with dark clouds. Fang Cheng and Long Yu walked side by side, an uncomfortable tension between them as they deliberately avoided eye contact, their cheeks flushed a pale pink. Gone were their school uniforms, replaced by casual clothes. Fang Cheng wore a white t-shirt paired with black jeans, and Long Yu was wearing a lilac blouse and blue jeans. When Fang Cheng cast a sneaky glance at Long Yu, he couldn't help but wonder how he hadn't noticed her beauty before. A couple was walking nearby holding hands, which caused the girl to move boldly. She held out her hand to Fang Cheng, silently inviting him to intertwine their fingers. Surrendering to the moment, they shared their embarrassment, their faces colored deeper shades of red, and a pleasant excitement pervaded them. With a gentle smile, Fang Cheng dared to ask if this gesture meant that they were now dating. Long Yu, equally excited, confirmed the positive answer. Inwardly, she was calling Fang Cheng a fool, embarrassed by his blunt approach, but wondering if he could have phrased it more subtly. As they continued to walk hand in hand, a new chapter opened in their journey together. As they walked down the street with joyful ease, holding hands and enjoying the warmth of each other's company, Fang Cheng and Long Yu met Xiong Nan of the Hunters' Union, who called Fang Cheng by name. Long Yu was puzzled, not knowing who Xiong Nan was. The girl inquisitively asked if they knew Fang Cheng. In turn, Xiong Nan asked about the identity of the girl accompanying Fang Cheng. They both stared at him, waiting for an answer. Xiong Nan felt a stab of disappointment and awkwardly put her hand over her heart. She assumed that Fang Cheng was single and even thought about inviting him to dinner one day. Fang Cheng's cheeks flushed as he introduced Long Yu as his classmate. Squeezing his hand tighter, Long Yu explained that they were actually childhood friends. A sigh of discontent escaped Xiong Nan's lips as she reflected on their long-time friendship, concluding that it had diminished her own chances of getting close to Fang Cheng. Despite the uncomfortable atmosphere, Fang Cheng invited Xiong Nan to dinner if she was available. Politely declining, Xiong Nan stated that he needed to return home immediately and hastily retreated, feigning indifference. Upset, she turned around and walked in the opposite direction. However, after pausing, she reminded him of the invitation from Vice President Ju Tai, who had sincerely offered to teach him how to fight. With an awkward smile, Fang Cheng waved goodbye, assuring her that he would not forget the offer and hoped she would not find it strange. Watching Xiong Nan blend into the crowd and disappear, Long Wu pointed accusingly at Fang Cheng's stomach, hinting that his behavior was similar to that of a man upset about being rejected. Embarrassed and blushing, Fang Cheng tried to dismiss her observation, rubbing the back of his head awkwardly while smiling. He insisted that he was not upset. After all, he and Long Wu had made plans for dinner from the beginning, just the two of them. He playfully accused her of jealousy before taking her hand again, strengthening their bond. There was a wonderful restaurant nearby. The girl looked at their intertwined hands and blushed charmingly, sighing softly with a tinge of sadness. Obviously, the day's exam had exhausted her. Fang Cheng sat down next to her with a big smile, offering her a ride on the contrail. With a laugh, she agreed, pushing off the ground to jump onto Fang Cheng's shoulders, noting how much fun it was. The sudden weight nearly toppled Fang Cheng, but he managed to hold on. looking up to suggest that carrying on his back might be easier than the precarious ride on his shoulder. She responded with a giggle and a playful wink, doubting the difference as he carried her in either direction. She reminded him of their childhood, when such pranks were commonplace, causing a mixture of surprise and nostalgia among the audience. But the couple was not embarrassed by the stares. Fang Cheng grabbed her hands securely as she balanced on his shoulders, recalling their youthful adventures. Closing his eyes, Fang Cheng laughed lightly, memories of their childhoods flooding back, when little Long had also joyfully ridden on his shoulders, as they did now, many years later. With enthusiasm in her voice, Chang said it was an amazing moment. Suddenly, a banana peel appeared under the boy's feet, causing him to slip and fall to the ground, followed closely by Long Wu. The banana peel, as if to add insult to injury, fell directly on his head. Noticing this, the girl sat down on the ground, crying bitterly in pain. Fang Cheng noticed her suffering and reached into his bag and took out some chocolate. He pleaded with Long Wu to stop her tears, offering chocolate as a sweet consolation, provided she stopped crying. The fall left them both dirty, their faces and clothes stained. Through her tears, Long Wu promised not to cry and smiled at him. Fang Cheng returned the smile, stroked her head affectionately, and remarked on her cuteness. Immersed in his memories, Fang Cheng wondered how Long Wu had turned into a beautiful girl without him even noticing. His smile remained unwavering, a testament to his pleasant memories. The spectators on the street looked bewildered, apparently thinking the scene before them was strange. Fang Cheng, with a sense of haste, grabbed Long Wu's legs tightly and rushed forward, setting the stage for their next adventure. Suddenly, the guy slowed down at the girl's request. Later, they went to a barbecue restaurant for dinner. At their table, 6 empty plates lay in front of Fang Cheng, who, very satisfied, leaned back, patting his stomach, and declared that this was the most delicious meat they served. Wang looked at him and put her hands on her chin in surprise. He was completely absorbed in his food without saying a word to her. 2 men were sitting at the next table. One was smoking a cigarette and asking his companion if he had time to learn about the latest news. He said that a woman's burned body had been found on a neighboring street. The couple listened intently as the other man expressed his surprise, adding that he had been there and seen the body hanging from a lamppost, a horrific sight. The smoker commented that it was indeed a horrific scene and, moreover, the perpetrator remained unknown. Fang Cheng, who was listening, lowered his eyes thoughtfully and began to talk about his parents. Haunted by stories of people burned by demons, he felt a special thrill inside every time such stories were told. When the girl confidently and assertively invited him to inspect the scene of the incident, Fang Cheng agreed, and together they got up from the table and left the restaurant. He could not shake the feeling that trouble had been following them all day. When they arrived at the crime scene, they saw that it was already filled with a large crowd. Against the background of the lamppost, the silhouette of a corpse was clearly visible. They came closer only to see the body of a young woman, burned beyond recognition. Her hair, teeth, and eyeballs were gone, and a clear mark was carved into her forehead. A voice from the crowd pierced the air, wondering aloud about the nature of the madman who could commit such an act, and then leave the victim tied to a pole for all to see. Fang Cheng pondered possible motives, suggesting to Long that perhaps the perpetrator had displayed the corpse so publicly to sow panic among the population. Long, amazed by the sight, suggested that the mark on the woman's forehead might be a clue to her identity or to the reason for this heinous act. Faced with the symbol associated with the demon church, a triangle surrounding the eye, Long W's eyes widened in shock at the sight before her. Fang Cheng, puzzled and unfamiliar with the specifics of the demon church, took on a serious expression and shared that he had learned about such organizations from the internet, where he learned that they were believed to have been founded by demons themselves. Wang nervously confirmed that this was true, and added grimly that the church was responsible for the deaths of many innocents. Their attention was then drawn to a burned body hanging from a pole, prompting Long to explain that demons make up the bulk of the organization's members. In addition, he noted that the attackers usually leave the symbol of the eye on the bodies of their victims after killing them. This revelation made Fang Cheng plunge into deep thought. The cruel fate that had befallen his parents, who had also been burned by a demon and their burnt remains thrown into the street, bore a striking resemblance to the murder they were now investigating. It was too closely connected to his own personal tragedy to be a mere coincidence. It turned out that he was finally on the verge of uncovering the truth he was looking for. As they stood among the crowd of onlookers, a man with the same mark on his forehead stepped out of the shadows. He was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt with a hood pulled over his head and clutching a strange black bag. Without warning, he threw the bag into the middle of the street. Fang Cheng, sensing the impending danger, turned around as the bag burst into flames and exploded a second later among the townspeople. In a state of alarm, Fang Cheng quickly grabbed Long Yu's hand, urging her to be careful. Chaos broke out as people panicked. Not everyone was lucky enough to escape. Some were caught in the devastating flames. Unbearable screams filled the air as people frantically tried to escape or save their loved ones. The fire spread rapidly, claiming more victims in its fierce path. Fueled by fear, Fang Cheng rushed forward, holding tightly to Long Yu's hand. She looked around, alarmed to see the horrific sight of people engulfed in flames. Their screams of agony mingled with the hideous hiss of burning flesh and the choking smoke of carbon monoxide. Still alive, they screamed for help, expressing their desperate desire not to die as their skin was rapidly charring, leaving no hope of survival. Fang Cheng, who witnessed this horror, turned around and saw the intruder rushing toward a narrow street, seeking shelter from prying eyes. Driven by anger, Fang Cheng pursued, vowing to apprehend the architect of this nightmare. Long Yu, although she did not express her thoughts, seemed to want to dissuade him, but Fang Cheng was not afraid. Rushing down the alley in hot pursuit of the attacker, Fang Cheng was on the verge of catching him when the attacker suddenly stopped, caught off guard by Fang Cheng's proximity. Faced with him, Fang Cheng demanded to know who was behind his presence, grabbing him by the shoulder. The attacker grimaced and bared his teeth. His skin began to peel off his face and flames engulfed his body. With an ominous smile, he succumbed to the flames, burning to ashes. Fang Cheng stared dumbfounded at the scene unfolding before him, trying to understand how the orchestrator of chaos had chosen burning over capturing. Watching the man's body burn to ashes, Fang Cheng could not help but wonder about the nature of the demonic church responsible for such devotion. How, he wondered, could anyone be forced to sacrifice their own life to protect the secrets of such an organization? From behind him, Wang Yu came up and shared her thoughts, suggesting that the dead man was just a pawn, and the real inspiration was probably hiding in the shadows. Fang Cheng found himself agreeing with her assessment, given the likelihood that there could be more people like the one who died. Meanwhile, rescuers arrived at the scene of the explosion and quickly extinguished the fire. They helped the wounded and retrieved the bodies of those who did not survive the ordeal. In the midst of this chaos, a vile individual gleefully pulled out his phone, wanting to document the carnage. With a wry smile, he commented on the number of victims and offered to share the footage online. He insensitively remarked that the victims never had a chance to survive, even going so far as to compare the smell of the charred remains to a barbecue, which disgusted the girl who happened to overhear the horrific conversation. As they were discussing the victims, they were confronted with a tragic sight: the charred remains of a young boy. Interrupting their conversation, a police officer approached and abruptly informed them that this was not a sight to behold, insisting that they leave immediately. He ominously hinted that criminals often return to crime scenes, an accusation that seemed to be directed at Fang Cheng and Long Yu as they stood amid the aftermath of the disaster. Turning to face the intelligence officers, Fang Cheng remarked that the timing of their arrival was good. Putting a comforting hand on Long Yu's shoulder, he announced his intention to visit the Hunters' Union the next day to consult with the vice chairman, Zai, hoping he could shed some light on the matter. Fang Cheng then asked the girl for permission to skip class tomorrow, explaining his plan. Despite her initial distrust, she did so, realizing the seriousness of his determination. She understood all too well the dangers of seeking the truth, especially when it came to the vile demon church, a group she feared for their dangerous influence and actions. In the bustling metropolis of Dongju City, Fang Cheng, a member of a formidable terrorist organization known as the Hunters' Union, sneaked into a high-rise building early one morning. There, he was supposed to take part in a sparring match in a specially designated training room with Zai, one of the participants. Zai, observing Fang Cheng's technique, expressed some praise, noting that he was quite skillful for a beginner. At this point, Fang Cheng, focusing on his form, narrowly avoided a left-handed punch from Jutai by ducking under it. Zei couldn't help but smile smugly at this maneuver, seizing the moment to share his wisdom. He advised that when expecting a left punch, one should always beware of the next deceptive right-hand punch. Unsurprisingly, this advice came just as the right-hand punch in question landed squarely on Fang Cheng's solar plexus, taking him by surprise. The deputy chief, observing the session, noted that any strategy is acceptable in war. Recognizing his oversight, Fang Cheng admitted defeat. After the training, when they had rested for a while, Jutai drank a soda and offered it to Fang Cheng. Noticing Fang Cheng's unusual lack of concentration during their session, Jutai asked if something was bothering him. Sitting on the floor, catching his breath and drinking a soda, Fang Cheng thought for a moment before asking Jutai if he had heard about the explosion that had occurred the previous day. After finishing his soda, the man expressed his suspicion that the events they were discussing bore the hallmarks of the Fire Lord, who turned their city into a living hell 5 years ago. These words resonated deeply with Fang Cheng, causing his pupils to constrict. In a serious tone, he urgently asked Vice Chairman Jutai for more information about this Fire Lord. The man, caught off guard by such an impassioned response, hesitated and asked the reason for his concern. Meanwhile, a storm of anger was brewing in Fang Cheng. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. Clutching a metal soda can, he raised his voice, revealing that his parents had died 5 years ago as victims of this demon. He proclaimed that if he did not avenge their deaths, he would not be able to forgive himself. Not far away, Fang Cheng and Jutai sat down by the window. It was dusk, and the setting sun was casting a warm golden light on the room. Jutai, noticing the young man's deep obsession, offered to share everything he knew about the subject. They each took a can of soda, and when they were seated, Jutai began to tell his story. He explained that after the Fire Lord 5 years ago, 150 people were victimized by a man who, with the assistance of the demonic church, managed to escape and hide abroad. Unfortunately, his penchant for chaos haunted him, resulting in him starting more than a dozen devastating fires that later promoted him to C rank. When Jutai turned his gaze to Fang Cheng, who was hurriedly preparing, the man concluded his story by revealing that this infamous Fire Lord had returned to their city, now even more cunning and elusive. He admitted that he had tried to capture him, but found the task surprisingly difficult. Fang Cheng slung his bag over his shoulder and headed for the exit, vowing to pursue and dismantle this devil wherever he hid. Jutai looked at him with an inscrutable expression. Addressing Jutai, Fang Cheng solemnly declared that by the time he managed to apprehend the culprit, he would have climbed to a Class C hunter himself. The man responded with a smile, his face covered with deep wrinkles as he raised his fist in support. He laughed warmly, encouraging Fang Cheng. The man was advised not to let his thirst for revenge cloud his judgment, so he was truly impressed by the figure before him. As he said goodbye, he looked forward to the day when he would be stronger. With a wave, Fang Cheng walked out into the corridor, assuring the man that he would not have to wait long. Outside, the day's warmth enveloped him, and the lilac sky began to fade as golden clouds heralded the sunset. People were moving on pedestrian crossings and public transportation was humming. Fang Cheng entered the outfitter's shop, choosing everything he needed for his upcoming journey. With a polite nod, he accepted the cashier's thanks for his purchases, aware of the dangerous road ahead. To meet the challenges, he had carefully prepared himself by stocking up on food, weapons, and protective gear. He had a huge backpack and formidable weapons behind him, a massive sword and spear. In addition, he provided equipment to protect his body from the foreseeable danger. As he continued on his way, Fang Cheng's attention was momentarily drawn to the news flashing on the street screen. The words of the anchor filled him with a sense of unease, adding a layer of urgency to the already difficult journey he was about to undertake. In her report, she detailed how the latest data highlighted the numerous arson incidents that have taken place across the city in recent days. Behind her, images from the incident were displayed, including a stunning photo of the corpse of a woman just seen the day before by Fang Cheng and Long Yu, 13th Street, a bar in the Eastern District and Central Hospital. She grimly announced that the death toll had risen to 270 and urged citizens to stay away from densely populated areas for their own safety. After realizing this terrible news, Fang Cheng's mood turned sour, and he suggested that the recent puppet incident was probably not an isolated event. Obviously, this statement shocked passers-by as well. As he surveyed his surroundings, Fang Cheng noticed a couple walking nearby and a large crowd behind them. He realized that despite the serious warning that had been covered in the news, city life was not slowing down. It seemed to Fang Cheng that the public either didn't know or chose to ignore the instructions to avoid crowded places, and the streets remained as busy as before. Clearly, there were few followers of these tips. Despite the increasing activity of the demons that were starting fires, Fang Cheng made a conscious decision not to dwell on it and sighed tiredly as he closed his eyes. He decided that he would mainly focus on increasing his strength. Approaching a small grocery store marked with a red sign teeming with customers, Fang Cheng spotted his older sister working as a cashier. She greeted him with a smile as she scanned items for customers, curiously asking what brought him there. Standing in front of her, Fang Cheng said that he would be leaving for a while and might not return home. His sister, surprised, silently opened her lips to express her concern. She asked him if he was sure of his decision, especially because the demon attacks had become more frequent and he needed to stay safe. Fang Cheng, keeping his sincere smile, fumbled in his pocket, assuring her that he was well prepared and that ordinary demons were no threat to him. Not for himself, but for his older sister, Fang Cheng pulled out a box with a white smartphone and gave it to her. He mentioned that he had bought a new phone for her during his shopping trip. She looked at the box in puzzlement and asked why he had made such a purchase, considering it an unnecessary expense. Fang Cheng begged her not to look at it that way and said he would not take her away from her work anymore. He waved goodbye and left. Holding the phone, his sister expressed her gratitude with a big smile. As she watched her brother walk out of the store, she felt a surge of pride, recognizing his growing courage and openness. She was extremely happy and cherished the hope that he would realize his ambitions and become even stronger. In an abandoned part of the city, Fang Cheng walked through a landscape of empty and crumbling buildings. Not only was the area devoid of life filled with abandoned buildings, but it was also scattered with broken-down cars and piles of garbage. Ready to face what lay ahead, Fang Cheng reached for the sword he had recently acquired as a sign of his readiness for the challenges that lay ahead. According to the information he had received from the Hunters' Union, the abandoned lands were teeming with dark demons, and sometimes particularly formidable C-rank demons could be found. The surroundings had signs of apocalypse: piles of rubble from destroyed buildings, empty lots, omnipresent silence, and desiccated human corpses. Thick fog enveloped the deserted part of the city, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Fang Cheng took a deep breath and his nose smelled fresh blood, a sign that he was now in demon-infested territory. Cautiously, he looked around and sharpened his ears for any extraneous noises. In the distance, a demon made its way across the wasteland, looking like a giant gray spider with a human face and horns, and a broken chain hanging from its neck. With quick foot movements, he moved across the desert and then suddenly jumped off the ground, aiming for Fang Cheng. Unaware of the impending danger, Fang Cheng was caught off guard, but he soon sensed that something was wrong and turned around in time. Barely avoiding the massive paw of the spider demon, Fang Cheng was thrown back, avoiding a direct collision by just a few seconds. The shockwave pushed him a few meters, and Fang Cheng found himself staring blankly at the demon on the opposite side. Suddenly, a sharp screech pierced the air, catching Fang Cheng's attention. With swift precision, he drew his sword, repelling the attack of the colossal Shuan. Then it dawned on him. There had been two demons all along. One with a monkey face and fierce fangs snatched the rejected Shuang out of the air. Side by side, the demons known as Spider, the Spider Demon, and Night Stalker, the monkey-faced demon, turned their fearsome gazes on Fang Cheng. At this moment, Fang Cheng felt a strange sense of fate. Facing two opponents at the same time seemed like a random challenge. Striking a fighting stance with his sword at the ready, he waited for the upcoming fight with a sense of impatience, almost as if it were just a warm-up exercise. The Night Stalker's face was distorted with anger as he prepared another Shuan. Announcing the start of the hunt with a fierce shout, he threw a Shuan with great force, and it was quickly followed by several more of the same weapons. All three Shuans rushed toward Fang Cheng, who stood poised and alert. With amazing agility, he deflected each of the projectiles ready for battle ahead. Amidst the air filled with shells and the ringing sound of metal on metal, the sound of a Shiren hitting the ground was unmistakable. Fang Cheng looked at the scene, realizing the authenticity of the weapon. He had initially assumed that Night Stalker wielded a ghostly blade. It was then that Arachnid launched an aerial assault. Fang Cheng, noticing the threat at the 11th hour, narrowly escaped. A direct strike would have caused serious injuries, as the Arachnid's force was powerful enough to split the ground itself. Suddenly, Night Stalker is waiting for him from behind, clutching his Xuan. Reacting quickly, Fang Cheng raised his sword to defend himself and saw that the weapon failed as the end of the blade simply broke off. Reluctantly recognizing the fragility of his weapon in the midst of a battle with these demons, Fang Cheng threw away the broken sword. He decided not to rely on his physical strength alone, but instead partially summoned his demonic powers. His right eye and hand changed, radiating a dark aura, signaling the awakening of his demonic prowess. Spider-Man and Night Stalker hissed and growled as they approached Fang Cheng, clearly preparing for another attack. With a smug smile, Fang Cheng taunted them, forcing them to endure the sting of his barbs. With a deliberate movement, he touched the ground with his hand, causing wooden spikes and branches to jump forward, throwing the demons off balance. Fang Cheng moved forward a few meters with unwavering concentration. Meanwhile, the demons managed to free themselves from the thicket, and the Night Stalker, ready to launch his shuriken, announced Fang Chen's imminent death. As the shuriken sliced through the air, Fang Cheng activated his swords with amazing agility, a defense mechanism that effectively parried the barrage of sharp projectiles. Repelling the attack, the confident Fang Cheng replied that he would survive and that Night Stalker would succumb to his own weapon. The shurikens, skillfully redirected by Fang Cheng, sailed back to the attackers, wounding them in the process. Night Stalker was hit in the shoulder, and the Arachnid lost one of its limbs, changing the course of the battle in favor of Fang Cheng. Han F. Chang's face was extremely upset, as he shouted, insisting that they must continue because the battle was far from over. Releasing the tentacles from his hands, Fang Cheng trapped the demons, lifting them high before hitting the ground with force. However, when it took away its tentacles, the demons began to stir, rising with aggressive growls. One of the arachnids opened its massive jaws, releasing a stream of pitch-black smoke. Fang Cheng plunged into it, convinced that such a weak and pathetic tactic would not stop him. On the contrary, it provided him with the perfect cover to hide in the toxic fumes and launch a counterattack. Indeed, the demons prematurely celebrated what they thought was his death, noticing his absence and seeing only a cloud of smoke. But a few seconds later, Fang Cheng broke through the smoke with his blades at the ready and rushed at them. He struck the arachnid 2 deep blows that tore its body into 4 equal parts. A Night Stalker who witnessed this scene. When Fang Cheng approached, his opponents had already begun to panic. The demon, overcome with fear, tried to run away. However, Fang Cheng was already on the move, drawing his spear. With an accurate swing, he recalled the decisive lesson of the battle, the paramount importance of defeating the enemy. With this thought in mind, Fang Cheng threw his spear. Fang Cheng stabbed the demon with his spear and it pierced his chest. The Night Stalker demon fell to the ground, dying. Several system windows appeared with a message. You have killed a Night Stalker demon and gained its throwing ability. He killed the Spider demon and obtained its black mist and increased body dexterity. Looking at the corpses of the defeated demons, Fang Cheng smiled and clenched his fist in victory. He could hardly believe that in this way he was able not only to acquire new skills, but also to improve his physical qualities. Suddenly, someone laughed loudly in the fog, breaking the moment of triumph. Then a mysterious voice sounded, hinting at a warning. Those who seek shortcuts rarely think about the consequences. In the fog-shrouded surroundings, silhouettes became ominously visible, causing Fang Cheng's muscles to tense at the sound of the unfamiliar voice. 4 figures dressed in black sweatshirts and brandishing firearms emerged from the fog, creating a menacing sight. The one wielding the axe spoke up, suggesting that if they were correct in their assumption, Fang Cheng was the infamous Demon King that the media had talked about a lot. The person holding the saber demanded that Fang Cheng hand over his belongings and vacate the premises immediately, warning him to cooperate and avoid unnecessary harm. Fang Cheng, still partially transformed into the demon form, was amazed at how quickly his identity was revealed. He realized that he needed to act decisively to dispel this band of robbers. By taking a defiant stance on the pavement, He provoked them to try to seize his property if they really wanted to, wondering if they were capable of such a feat. One of the assailants pointed out that Fang Cheng had clearly misjudged the seriousness of his situation, to which the other responded indifferently, insisting that they would continue regardless. Eager to earn a reward from above, they positioned themselves opposite their target, ready to launch an attack. Suddenly, the roar of an engine pierced the air, and through the fog, someone's voice said they could detect a certain smell. Every soldier on the battlefield turned their gaze to the source of the noise. Out of the fog emerged a terrifying figure riding a red motorcycle, a gray demon with the face of a bull and massive horns. In his left hand he held a formidable sword, the hilt of which was decorated with a red eye, which scraped the ground with the sound of metal on stone. A gray chain adorned the demon's neck, and his thigh was wrapped in a bandage. With a menacing voice, he claimed to be able to smell blood and death in the air. With a quick movement, the demon pushed his motorcycle off the ground and raised his sword high in the air. The bandits, struck by this sudden appearance, began to doubt its nature and hastily thought of retreating, fearing an imminent fight. Panic set in. They were unprepared to face this formidable foe. Their resolve was quickly shattered, for before they could flee, the demon descended upon them. With a few deft swings of his sword, he cut the attackers to pieces. Before they died, their only awareness was a fleeting realization of their fate, of their inability to resist the demon's power. With casual ease, little more than a whisper of muffled groans marking his passage, the demon dismounted from his motorcycle and headed toward Fang Cheng. Standing in front of him, a feeling of uncertainty and fear flashed across Fang Cheng's face. The demon's arrival, swift and quiet, caused palpable tension. He abruptly stopped his motorcycle in front of Fang Cheng, sheathed his sword with a click, and clearly expressed his displeasure. "This is just terrible," he said in a dismissive tone. Fang Cheng gave him an intense look, his mind racing with thoughts. The ease with which this demon instantly dispatched the 4 Class D hunters spoke volumes about its formidable nature. This was no ordinary enemy. As the demon carelessly slung his sword over his shoulder, he uttered a formidable threat, expressing his surprise at finding a powerful demon living in the body of a mere boy. Fang Cheng flared with anger as he met the demon's gaze directly in the eyes, demanding to know his identity and his connection to the inner demon that Fang Cheng had been hiding. The demon's response was loud and clear, rejecting the need for introductions. "Who I am does not matter. What matters is that you are now a vessel for the demon of destruction," he said, stepping off his motorcycle and announcing his intentions. Swinging his sword against Fang Cheng, the demon said that Chang was completely unaware of the enormous power of his demonic nature. Fang Cheng did not budge, replying that the demon seemed to have considerable knowledge of him. With a disgruntled laugh, the demon replied that even though Chang was his master, he was unaware of his true nature. He was proud of his past, in which he was considered the most powerful demon in their world, an invincible force that could only be defeated by underhanded means. The demon could not have realized the extent of his dominance had it not been for his untimely fall. Speaking with a combination of pride and respect, he painted a vivid picture of his former glory. Fascinated by the demon's stories, Fang Cheng met his gaze with a blank expression and asked if the demon was looking for him to use the power of a demon slayer. The demon's lips curled into a menacing smile as he laughed at Chang's wit. After sarcastically apologizing, Fang Cheng stated his refusal to give up his power so easily. With a flick of his wrist, he activated his unique ability, summoning a massive black shikon in his palm, ready to confront the demon's imposing presence. Rushing towards Fang Cheng, the motorcyclist shouted, deriding him as merely a pathetic D-class hunter. He questioned Fang Cheng's ability to stand up to him, his sword scraping the ground as he declared that Fang must accept his inevitable defeat. He claimed that Fang was unworthy of the power of the extermination demon. With only seconds before they collided, Fang skillfully dodged the motorcycle and jumped to safety. The demon, impressed by Fang's quick reflexes, pointed his sword in Fang's direction again. However, Fang skillfully deflected the attack with his own blade, standing firmly in place as the demon on the motorcycle rolled away slightly. Suddenly, a system alert appeared. C-rank enemy detected. True form activation in progress. Previously only partially transformed, Fang now assumed his full demon form. His eyes flashed with rage as he faced his opponent, ready to launch a powerful counterattack. Gathering his strength, Fang threw his weapon, the Xuan, at the enemy with great force, signaling the beginning of a fierce battle. With a thunderous cry, the demon declared that he would destroy everything in his path. He effortlessly intercepted the shuriken with his sword before beginning to spin it at the tip of the blade, his laughter sounding ominous. With a mocking tone, he asked if Fang Chen's weak attempt at deception was really the best strategy. With an evil smile, the demon threw the shuriken at Fang Chen, mocking him for his audacity given his obvious weakness. Shuriken aggressively turned toward Fang Chen, who was quickly strategizing his next move. Using his tentacles, Fang Chen managed to snatch the shuriken out of the air. With a tentacle movement, it picked up the shuriken, turned it once more before throwing it back at the enemy. This unexpected counterattack hit the demon right in the face, causing it to bounce slightly, and now there was a scar under his right eye. With admiration, the demon noted Fang Chen's ability to redirect his weapon despite his hostility. His tone was one of respect. After the shuriken turned in a different direction after the impact, the demon rushed toward Fang Chen again, accelerating his bike, signaling the continuation of their fierce duel. Waving a sharp sword, he roared that the entertainment was over. A quick, sharp blade stabbed the man in the chest. He tried to perform a second attack, combining tentacle and Xuan techniques, but was interrupted when the demon rushed past him. Fang Chang's pupil constricted at the sight of the deep, large wound on his chest. He recognized his inability to compete with the speed of his swordplay and felt the demonic blood seeping through. Blood spattered his face and the ground below. Despite the severe injury that could have taken his life, his face hardened with concentration. Several windows of the system materialized, alerting him. Danger level critical. The bodily restrictions have been temporarily removed. The demon who was passing by on his motorcycle laughed evilly, doubting whether this was really the extent of Fang Chang's ability. Fang Chang's eyes flashed with a fierce, bright red light, emitting sparks of lightning. The aura surrounding him intensified, expanding in power. The power of the extermination demon flashed through him like an uncontrollable forest fire, drastically changing his appearance. As the outer shell began to peel away, the transformation was revealed. Underneath was obsidian-hued skin that shimmered with a crimson sheen. A sinister smile flashed across his face, revealing sharp teeth, and his eyes, shining with a fiery brilliance, enhanced the aura of foreboding that enveloped him. This aura seemed to dance around Fang Chang, who enjoyed the heady rush of power that permeated him. It was an exhilarating feeling, unmatched in its intensity. From afar, the demon watcher was bewildered by Fang Chang's sudden and drastic escalation of power. Seeing this transformation, the demon could not understand the source of such a dramatic growth. In the midst of this transformation, Fang Chang let out a defiant roar, repeating the orders of the voice in his head that had urged him to destroy his opponent. He frowned, his eyes flashing with an even brighter glow. He mentally rebuked the voice, telling it that it didn't need to be reminded of its intentions. With supernatural speed, he rushed toward the demon, a menacing smile on his face. Caught off guard, the demon hastily got on his motorcycle, sword clenched at the ready. However, he was ill-prepared for the next attack. As Fang Chang waved his blades with a smile that foretold death, the demon prepared to strike. Smiling, the demon began to fly backwards. A shocked exclamation escaped him as he jumped off the motorcycle. After pushing back a few meters, he rolled further along the ground, before rising and standing on one leg, thrusting his sword into the ground with force. With a menacing look, he met Fang Chang's eyes and said that mercy was no longer an option. This was exactly what Fang Chang wanted. Fueled by a burning need to defeat the demon and tear it limb from limb, he announced in a deep demonic tone that their fight was far from over. The enemy struck out with a blade in his hand, but the demon skillfully deflected his sword, parrying the attack and pushing Fang Chang slightly aside. With a smug expression on his face, he questioned Fang Chang's confidence in his ability to defeat him, the sword-wielding knight. They moved across the battlefield in a manner reminiscent of a passionate dance, unwilling to give in. Both of them put in their best effort, determined to come out victorious. They stood face to face. The demon let out a thunderous roar, and Fang Chang responded with a sinister smile. With a menacing growl, he decided to attack the demon again with his blades. Repeatedly, he managed to repel the attacks, and with the force of each clash, they were driven away from each other. The demon was confused by the sudden change in his opponent. Now Fang Cheng seemed more like a crazy creature, insatiable for power. With his lips slightly parted, Fang Cheng unleashed a sinister combination of tentacle and spike attacks. Placing his hands on the ground, he summoned tendrils that appeared to grab the demon, making escape futile. Along with the tentacles, sharp wooden spikes pierced the demon's body. Struggling to free itself from the trap, the demon tried to grab its sword in an attempt to break the binding tendrils. During the struggle, he hurled insults at Fang Cheng, calling him a scoundrel. Fang Cheng, despite this, calmly replied that the demon was nothing more than a piece of meat laid out on the butcher's block, deprived of any right to protest. With these words, Fang Cheng put the blades back on his hands, ready to strike the last blow against his enemy. A flash of realization flashed in the demon's eyes, for he realized the danger that awaited him. He had some tricks up his sleeve, and one of them was his motorcycle. Behind Fang Cheng, his opponent's motorcycle appeared with its engine roaring. Shining with red lightning, the blades emerged from under the handlebars of the motorcycle, unfurling like a butterfly knife. The rider rushed straight at Fang Cheng, trying to cut him in half. However, Fang Cheng remained calm and avoided the motorcycle and its blades. The motorcycle stopped between the demon and Fang Cheng, allowing the latter to momentarily sever the tentacles with his sword and escape. Laughing uproariously, the opponent said that Fang Cheng should have realized that every knight has a faithful steed, and in this case it was a motorcycle. Fang Cheng pointed his palms at his opponent and declared that his joy was premature. Using the black fog ability, Fang Cheng enveloped the demon in a dense curtain of smoke. His enemy denounced Fang Cheng's tactics as cowardly. Breathing with difficulty, the enemy ordered his motorcycle to rush forward in an attempt to overthrow Fang Cheng. Anticipating this, Fang Cheng assumed a stance ready to jump, using the jump boost ability to increase his agility. His legs became thicker and stronger, allowing him to leap effortlessly over the bike hurtling toward him. Raising his blades high, he announced to the demon that his end was near. The demon, surprised and extremely confused, had a reflection in his eyes of Fang Cheng's rapid approach. With one punch, Fang Cheng inflicted 2 deep cuts on the demon, leaving it seriously wounded. The enemy, who was already faltering, looked at him, noting that Fang Cheng was ready to use any tactic to win. Falling to his knees, blood spurted madly from the demon's wounds. Soon after, he fell to his stomach and the sword slipped from his hands. Standing with his back to the stage, Fang Cheng flashed a smile, showing his sharp fangs. The demon made a last-ditch effort to reach for his sword, which was lying nearby, but he didn't have the strength to make even this small gesture. With a sad smile, he wondered if this feeling was disappointment. As death approached, he lay defeated. In a gloomy tone, he admitted that for him, a knight of the sword being defeated by the enemy was the ultimate disgrace. He begged Fang Cheng to grant him a quick end. As he approached, Fang Cheng said with a menacing look that if he wanted a quick and merciful death, he must reveal information about the Fire Lord. This request piqued the interest of the injured demon. Looking up, he pleaded with Fang Cheng again. Looking at the demon, Fang Cheng told him that the Fire Lord's minions had recently become active in the city. He asked if the demon knew about it. The demon confirmed his knowledge by closing his eyes and saying that the Fire Lord was a demon raised by the demonic church. Although both were classified as S-rank demons, he noted that the difference in their strength was enormous. Fang Cheng, puzzled, wondered if the powers among C-rank demons also differed. The demon confirmed, explaining that C-rank demons also had a hierarchy, and in this structure the Fire Lord was considered a mid-level entity. In the cosmic demon hierarchy, the creature standing in front of Fang Cheng was simply a low-level nuisance located in a structure divided into low, mid, and high levels. He mentioned the enormous challenge of defeating the Fire Lord, to which Fang Cheng responded with a dark smile, asking if this challenge surpassed the difficulty of escaping from hell. Dismissing the demon's gloominess as the attitude of a true loser, Fang Cheng confronted him, declaring the demon to be nothing more than a wimp. Standing boldly, he shared his own story, revealing how he once carried the title of cowardly loser, a label that led him through endless suffering and ridicule. However, Fang Cheng never gave in to despair. He studied hard, firmly believing that overcoming his opponents was his only path to victory. Looking down at his sharpened claws, he declared that the moment he was afraid of any demon, he would leave the title of hunter. The Lord of Fire, he swore, would fall at his hands. With these words, Fang Cheng turned his back on the battlefield, leaving the demon stunned. The enemy, open-mouthed in amazement, marveled at Fang Cheng's unwavering determination, reflecting on the young hunter's clear face as he departed, a clear indication of his unbreakable spirit. He closed his eyes in pain, declaring himself a worthless knight defeated in a fair fight. He lamented that he would never again have the confidence he once exuded. He begged for death. Fang Cheng, turning away, expressed his unwillingness to stain his hands by ending the life of a defeated enemy. The demon accepted his answer, and a black spiral aura began to appear in front of him. Gradually his body dissolved into a dark aura. He said that since Fang Cheng refused to kill him, he would at least give him the trophy of the vanquished. Fang Cheng, puzzled, could not understand its meaning. Since the demon's body, almost destroyed and recognizing its serious injuries, would soon take his life, he decided to voluntarily give up his existence. Instead of slowly succumbing, he decided to destroy the essence of his life by transferring his power to Fang Cheng. Fang Cheng asked his intention, but received no answer as the demon's essence turned into a mass of black aura that rose to the heavens. Fang Cheng watched, not realizing the magnitude of the sacrifice. During this strange event, an eye materialized in the aura. The demon proposed an arrangement to become a step on the ladder of the young man's path. Gradually, the formless aura took on the shape of a sword, with a demon's eye decorating its hilt. Fang Cheng, puzzled, decided to approach. The sword, now fully materialized, was impressive. Its blade was deep black with hints of red, and its size was enormous. Fang Cheng stretched out his hand, grabbed the hilt, and raised the sword, examining it carefully. When he did so, the sword began to transform back into its humanoid form. Fang Cheng was amazed. He had a hard time realizing that the demon had really transformed into a magic sword. He twirled it in his hands, examining it from all sides. Holding the sword, a feeling of unity gripped him, as if he and the sword were connected. He realized that this weapon could be considered a smart sword. After transforming into a more formidable demonic figure, Fang Cheng's shirt disappeared, revealing his healthy physique. Suddenly, Fang Cheng heard a cheerful voice, hinting that he had somehow convinced the demon to surrender his form. The powerful but immortal Fang Cheng stood bewildered. The demon inside him, who normally communicated like a machine, had inexplicably taken on a more human consciousness. A dark red clot began to come out of his chest. The extermination demon announced that it was time to get some fresh air. As the clot continued to stick out, Fang Cheng was surprised. The mass from its chest began to transform into a recognizable shape before opening its wings. The demon of extermination materialized before him, albeit in a smaller form, similar to a child demon. Hovering in the air, he proudly announced that Fang Cheng was now in the presence of his master, and demanded that he kneel down. Watching the demon, Fang Cheng asked if it was really a lesser incarnation of the demon of extermination. To him, this form seemed more like a pet than a fearsome demon. Meeting a blank stare, the demon's demeanor quickly changed to anger, and his eyes blazed with rage. When asked how Fang Cheng dared to say his name in front of his master, the master of the demon world indignantly raised his voice, asserting his dominance not as some simple beast, but as a formidable power. In response, Fang Cheng looked at him with a calm gaze, asking if this was indeed a true manifestation of the demon of extermination. Coughing slightly, the demon admitted that such a description might be accurate. When he sighed tiredly, he clarified, admitting that it would be more accurate to describe his presence as a spiritual essence rather than a tangible form. With a mocking smile, the demon pointed to Fang Cheng, showing that when the latter was struck by the blade, his soul, reeking of intense anger, lured the demon, who saw Fang Cheng as a promising vessel. The demon gave him the power to defeat demons, absorbing their souls in the process, with the ultimate goal of restoring his bodily existence. Fang Cheng seriously confronted the demon, recognizing that the demon was not pretending to hide his true motives, but Fang Cheng silently confessed. Fang Cheng sincerely stated that he needed his power, and believed that as long as he proceeded carefully, there would be no problems. He approached the extermination demon and agreed to continue their alliance. However, Fang Cheng set a condition that the demon must help him defeat the Fire Lord. The demon laughed evilly, opened his wings wide, crossed his arms over his chest, and ominously stated that only one Fire Lord was not enough. They must destroy the entire demon church. Shocked, Fang Cheng asked why they had to destroy the entire demon church, and if the extermination demon was not offended by them. The demon flapped his wings in front of Fang Cheng, proclaiming his desire to completely destroy the demonic church controlled by his dark soul. Folding his arms across his chest, he showed that the head of this church, the so-called high priest, was responsible for his death. Fang Cheng calmly asked about the high priest of the demonic church but received no answer. The disappointed demon clenched his fists and screamed, leaving questions about his connection to the high priest and his motives hanging in the air. If he had the same power now as he had when he was alive, the priest would not have ruled over the demonic realm or the world of mortals. Fang Cheng looked up at the demon of extermination and asked again about the identity of this high priest. The demon replied that although little was known about the leader of the demon church, the existence of the church itself was generally accepted. Closing his eyes with a look of detachment, the demon stated that all Fang Cheng needed to understand was that the high priest was the inspiration behind numerous conspiracies. At a loss for words, Fang Cheng chose to remain silent. The extermination demon smiled, crossing his arms over his chest again. Then he suggested that they discuss the young man's current situation. The demon offered his help to help Fang Cheng become stronger to defeat the Fire Lord. After this victory, he would help Fang Cheng in the decomposition of the demon church. Fang Cheng looked at him, his eyes widening in surprise. Noticing his stunned expression, the demon smiled and asked if Fang Cheng was scared, warning him that only a benevolent demon like himself would make such an offer. Fang Cheng managed to regain his composure. With a stern expression on his face, he declared that the moment had finally come to eradicate this demonic church from existence. Hearing this, the demon gave him a thumbs up and smiled, saying, "That is excellent." He remembered that his master admired such determination. Fang Cheng could not help but laugh. Without saying another word to him, Fang Cheng's thoughts lingered. The demon, the self-proclaimed master, ironically seemed more like a small animal. The expression on his face, the drooping lips, and the wrinkle on his forehead did not go unnoticed by the demon, who, visibly irritated, approached him to ask if Fang Cheng doubted his formidable strength. Caught off guard, Fang Cheng hastily assured the demon of his unwavering faith in its power, but he couldn't help but wonder at the creature's eerie insight into his private thoughts. Is it possible that the demon had the ability to read minds? Gripping his sword tightly, Fang Cheng decided it was time to end their useless conversation. He looked at the demon and assumed the presence of a whole legion of such beings lurking in their vicinity. With conviction, he suggested that they embark on a cleansing mission. The demon of extermination looked away, seemingly distracted, as if recognizing the impending challenge that awaited them. Fang Cheng had witnessed something amazing, a phenomenon that turned out to be true. A motorcycle that once belonged to a demon who had turned into a sword was now heading toward them. While observing the motorcycle, Fang Cheng saw the demon of extermination fly up to the motorcycle, indicating that the motorcycle recognized Fang Cheng as its rightful master. With a powerful engine, the motorcycle drove right at the young man. Fang Cheng got on the motorcycle with a smile widening on his face, confirming that he would not miss this opportunity. After securing the sword behind the motorcycle, he gripped the handlebars tightly and focused intently forward, ready to embark on a unique journey. For the first time, Fang Cheng was going to drive a vehicle powered by the user's own energy. As the motorcycle accelerated, rushing forward at incredible speed with the demon of extermination following behind, its engine roared vigorously. Fang Cheng couldn't help but smile as he enjoyed the feeling of his strength being transformed into the incredible speed of the motorcycle. The demon of destruction flying nearby noticed Fang Cheng's enjoyment. At that moment, amidst the rush and rumble of the enchanted motorcycle, Fang Cheng discovered a profound connection between his power and the performance of the car, which marked the beginning of an extraordinary adventure. Fang Cheng, unaware of the true extent of his power, rode the motorcycle at such a speed that he kicked up huge columns of dust behind him. When he approached an abandoned building among the devastated ruins, he discovered that it was a hiding place for creatures that were waiting. These creatures looked like humans, but their gray skin and wide mouths filled with sharp teeth betrayed their demonic nature. When they launched their attack, Fang Cheng quickly grabbed a live sword attached to the back of his motorcycle. With a sword in one hand and a motorcycle in the other, he resisted the onslaught. In an instant, every demon that dared to approach was split in two. The action required a minimum of effort from Fang Cheng, and soon the remains of the demons were scattered in all directions. He continued his journey, easily casting out demons one by one. Beside him, the demon known as the Fighter, who had taken his place at his left shoulder, commented favorably on the fruitful harvest. It told Fang Cheng that they were fighting drunken demons, ghouls. With each defeat of these creatures, their numbers decreased more and more. Fang Cheng looked at him, a smile playing on his lips. "This is interesting," he said, his smile growing wider. He explained that the system was no longer confined to his mind, but now sat beside him as a tangible presence. Together they rode to the ruins, where demons sat on the walls and roofs, shrouded in a gloomy fog. The red moon overhead gave the scene an ominous appearance. Revving up the motorcycle engine, Fang Cheng proposed a modest goal: to destroy all the demons in the deserted sector of the city. 4 days later, the weather couldn't have been better. Green leaves whispered in the breeze, the sky was unspoiled by clouds, and sunlight sparkled in the windows of the hunting academy. In the classroom, Yu sat dejectedly looking at a leafless, dried-up tree branch. She rested her chin on her hand and thought about Fang Cheng's absence. He didn't show up for school, his phone was always off, and he didn't answer any calls. Worrying about Fang Cheng weighed heavily on her, forcing her to think about his whereabouts and well-being. Sitting down, clasping her hands together, she sighed sadly, worried that he might be trying to take revenge on the Fire Lord himself. In Long Yu's opinion, now was hardly the best time for such actions. Meanwhile, while Long Yu was busy with school, Fan Chan traveled around the city center on his bicycle. His presence stopped the usual flow of people around him. The wheels of his bicycle were turning incredibly fast. On his back was a large sack filled to the brim with the bodies of demons he had caught and killed. Fang Cheng confidently grabbed the steering wheel and drove down the road looking happy. He had managed to buy some clothes, a white t-shirt combined with a gray cape. On his shoulder was the extermination demon. The familiar streets of Tongju greeted him after a long absence, bringing a confident smile to his face. He was sure that the Fire Lord's death was inevitable thanks to his hands. When he arrived at the office of the Dongju Hunters Union, a whirlwind wind lifted torn leaves into the air, marking his dramatic entrance. The sky was bright blue, starting from the trees and upward, causing them to rotate. Gentle clouds floated across it, and the sun reflected in the windows of the buildings. Fang Chan proudly displayed all his Jutai and Zonin treasures on canvas. You could see ghouls, Night Stalker, and Arachnet. Zion Nan, her eyes wide with wonder and her mouth hanging open, asked in amazement if he had managed to capture all these creatures by himself. She was holding a tablet with a stylus, and it was hard for her to even realize the power that Fang Cheng must have. Zai turned to him and smiled, expressing his awe that there was even a C-rank demon, the original knight, among Fan Cheng. This was obviously the same demon that later became Fan Cheng's sword. Zai praised him, noting how much stronger Fang Cheng had become. With a stern expression on his face, Fang Cheng attributed his success to luck. He made up a story about encountering a wounded original knight and just finished him off. Internally, he believed that without the right form, he would have had a hard time dealing with him. For now, Fang Cheng thought it was wiser not to draw too much attention to himself. He looked at Yutai and asked if he had any information about the Fire Lord's current whereabouts. Yutai's smile instantly disappeared, replaced by seriousness. He said that although the Lord of Fire had not yet revealed himself in person, his supporters had been spotted on numerous occasions. Their actions in densely populated areas have led to the tragic deaths of hundreds more citizens. Fang Cheng frowned in concern, and he asked if there had been any official announcement on the news about the city government's ban on mass gatherings. Jutai, with a grim nod, confirmed this, but complained that the population seemed unwilling to comply with the directive. Scratching his beard thoughtfully and closing his eyes, Jutai proposed a plan for the evening. The Black Sun Group had a concert scheduled, an event guaranteed to draw a huge audience. Despite the warnings of a possible fire outbreak, he was sure that the band's die-hard fans would still show up. He visualized the scenario in his mind, thinking about the consequences. During the rock band's stunning performance, which was accompanied by a bright light show, Fang Cheng's expression became worried. With slightly furrowed brows and lowered lips, he expressed to Jutai his surprise at the band's decision to hold a concert in such dangerous times. He wondered if it was related to the Fire Lord. Jutai responded by noting that they had thought the same thing, but had no concrete evidence to act on it. He added that their fan base was notoriously passionate, so they were almost impossible to contain. Fang Cheng nodded thoughtfully and concluded that he needed to attend the concert himself to uncover the truth. In a different setting, Xiongnan looked at her tablet with a satisfied smile. She informed Fang Cheng that she had completed the calculation of the reward based on the loot he had provided. She announced that $1.2 million had been transferred to his bank account. Fang Cheng's eyes widened in disbelief. His pupils constricted as he asked her to confirm the amount. Xiongnan reassured him by confirming the accuracy of her calculations. Because in just one night of hunting a C rank, there was a reward of 1 million yuan. Fang Cheng smiled in satisfaction. He hadn't expected such a lucrative result. Given the substantial rewards, he decided to focus more on hunting C-rank demons. The extermination demon sitting on his shoulder whispered that Fang Cheng was particularly fond of money. In the evening, they arrived at the VIP bar Blacken to attend a concert by the band of the same name. The name of the bar was visible on the building, and posters adorned the walls. The parking lot was filled with expensive cars, and a crowd of people was making their way to the bar. Among them was a guy with a mohawk with a word shaved on the back of his head. People gathered around, looking at posters and talking. Fan Chen rode his motorcycle into the parking lot. By this time, the sky was completely dark, decorated with visible stars. He got off the motorcycle and leaned against it, arms crossed over his chest, surveying the scene. The place was so crowded that he didn't realize at first that they had started their performance in their own bar. Next to him, the demon of extermination hovered in the air, his presence immediately noticeable. Fang Cheng asked, perhaps with hidden anxiety, if there was a fear that someone would notice the demon. The demon assured him, however, that in his current form, as a mere incarnation of a soul, he would remain invisible to all but Fang Cheng himself. At that moment, the club's DJ came outside, instantly attracting the crowd's attention. With an enthusiastic gesture, he flashed a horn sign, loudly announcing the start of the concert and urging everyone to get their tickets ready. His clothes were distinctive, a white sweatshirt under a black jacket, complemented by black glasses and a bright red hat. The crowd, fueled by anticipation, began to chant the band's name and repeat the DJ's sign. They approached the bar and the waiting stage, their excitement palpable in the air. Among them was Fang Cheng, who was discreetly holding his living sword hidden behind his back. It seemed like the perfect moment for him to reveal the truth behind the mysterious black sun. When the concert began, the drummer's sticks thundered on the drums, setting a powerful rhythm that would emphasize the entire performance. Meanwhile, the bassist skillfully plucked the strings, contributing to the dynamic soundscape that enveloped the crowd. Strumming the strings of his red bass guitar, the lead singer, dressed in a black leather jacket with studs, sang lyrics about being done with the war but feeling far from the world. The band, electrified with energy, dominated the stage as the sounds of their music echoed from the speakers. Wearing a red bandana, the lead singer's voice rose with emotion as he spoke of fever and chills, of hopes and dreams turning into nightmares, and of wanting to feel the wind in his face again despite claiming the power to fly. The stage was flooded with a mixture of white and purple spotlights, creating a mesmerizing color and music that captivated the audience, eliciting cheers and chants of Fang's band name. Amidst the fervor, Fang Cheng was unimpressed with the performance, finding the rock music too loud. However, the demon of extermination perched on his shoulder seemed to enjoy the melodies, humming approvingly, indicating the music's broad appeal. The crowd's enthusiasm grew, their cheers pushing the band forward in stark contrast to Fang's indifference. Chang noticed a familiar figure standing there smoking a cigarette. He recognized him as Dulan's deputy. Duan looked at the scene with an emotionless gaze, casually smoking a cigarette with his hands in his pockets, as if he were investigating arson cases. The soloist on stage with his eyes closed was deeply immersed in his performance. With every note, he conveyed a deep sadness, singing about dining in sorrow and laughing through pain, about the restlessness of life and the restlessness of death. Meanwhile, the guitarist unleashed a cool riff, and the lead singer stepped on the speaker, rallying the crowd to get louder. The audience responded eagerly, their screams intensifying as they raised their fists in the air and shouted the band's name. Suddenly, the soloist's demeanor changed. An eerie expression crossed his face as he extended his hand to the crowd, inviting them to join in the dedication of their lives to the Great Flame. This proclamation made Duan and Fang Cheng tense and anxious. The band's fans, now more cheerful, began to chant their readiness to follow the Black Sun and sacrifice for the Great Fire. It was as if a literal fire had broken out in their eyes, a spark of fervent devotion. Inspired by this reaction, the soloist continued, capturing the intensity of the moment. As Damon began to smile malevolently, he proclaimed that the madness of the Great Flame was about to be revealed. A huge red eye materialized on the ceiling, releasing flames and smoke, a sight that gave everyone shivers. The demon of extermination crossed his arms, noting that it resembled a demonic sacrifice spell. Fang Cheng admitted with a serious expression that he had foreseen an event of this magnitude to happen here. Meanwhile, the crowd erupted in cheers, seemingly enthralled as the fiery eye gazed ominously at them. The band on stage were not spared either. Their instruments burst into flames, including the soloist's microphone and the drummer's sticks. They raised their flaming instruments high, giving a fiery salute to the magnificent Lord of Fire on behalf of all the assembled mortals. However, a feeling of anxiety began to spread among some visitors, who realized that something extremely abnormal and terrible was happening. A wave of panic rose and they rushed to the exits. Amidst the chaos, Fang Cheng remained motionless, watching the scene unfold with the demon of extermination. As his gaze swept over the fleeing crowd, he spotted Duan, who strangely showed no urgency in fleeing. Fang Cheng couldn't help but wonder at Duan's lack of reaction, wondering if he had other intentions in mind. Duan stood silently, emotionless, continuing to smoke his cigarette. Fang Cheng looked around at the crowd and then decided to blend in to find a quiet, secluded spot. There he planned to unite with the demon and take on its combat form. The red eye on the ceiling began to attract people to it, setting them on fire. He noticed how wonderful the smell of burning flesh was. The victim's hair was sitting up, their pupils and irises gone, leaving only the whites of their eyes. Their heads were on fire, the brand of the demonic church on their foreheads. Raising the lighted instruments high, they proclaimed it in the true voice of the Fire Lord, greeting him with joy as the red-skinned, smiling demon began to appear from the eye above. While smoking a cigarette, Duan commented that he had begun to doubt the appearance of the Fire Lord today. The Fire Lord descended from the red eye, indicating his expected entrance. In the bar, he towered over Fang Cheng's demonic appearance, his stature huge and imposing. Adorned with a long tail, massive horns, and a prominent cross on his chest, he exuded a menacing aura when he was fully engulfed in flames. His eyes, reflecting the color of fire, bore the mark of the demon church on their foreheads. With an eerily cheerful laugh, he looked around the bar, declaring that everything was beautifully done and expressing delight at the large number of victims, which he found delightfully tasty. He crossed his arms as he turned his attention to Duan, asking about the blonde man's identity and why he hadn't become one of the victims yet. Right under the formidable Lord of Fire, the group of musicians was in danger. With burning heads, they rushed to Duan, proclaiming their lord's indifference to the alarm, as they were determined to confront him and eventually sacrifice him. Duan, coolly holding a cigarette between his lips, stretched out his hands to summon his power. He openly doubted the musicians, nicknamed rockers, were capable of challenging him, saying he had no time to waste on ordinary fans and expressing his disinterest in interacting with them. The Lord of Fire only needed to use his own hands, enveloped in a blue aura, to summon two huge bone hands that appeared right in front of the rockers' faces. Reaching for them, the bony hands threw the rockers in different directions so that they could not damage their recruit. Despite this, the Fire Lord's henchmen continued to surround Duan. The rockers, covered in fire from head to toe, laughed loudly and pushed each other, but bony hands covered Duan. Mimicking his gesture, the skeleton arms moved as he thrust his hands forward, taking a defensive stance that the rockers were unable to break. Meanwhile, the Lord of Fire crossed his arms over his chest, chuckling thoughtfully. He recognized the blond man's potential, assuming he must be one of the famous Night's Watch. Unbeknownst to him, Fang Cheng, now in his enhanced demonic form, was already swooping down on the Fire Lord from behind, blades ready to strike his main enemy. Sensing the approaching attack, the Fire Lord turned to face him. Surprised by the sudden encounter, the man hastily called for a wall of fire. However, Fang Cheng, undaunted, easily cut through the fire barrier with his blades, breaking through the Fire Lord's defense. Noticing the unexpected aggression, the Lord of Fire was surprised to see a demon among his attackers. "Since you have decided to attack me, you must be prepared to face death," said the Lord of Fire, clenching his fist. With a brutal swing, he unleashed hell on Fang Cheng, who deftly dodged the attack. The flames engulfed the bar floor, throwing Fang Cheng slightly into a stoop, but he remained upright, jaw clenched and brow furrowed in determination. He acknowledged the Fire Lord's immense power, recognizing the advantages of his classification as an average C-class opponent. Hovering above, the Fire Lord looked down at Fang Cheng with a formidable smile and blazing eyes, noting the smell of destruction emanating from him. In response, Fang Cheng shouted, his patience running out, "Enough talk, it's time for you to meet your end." With these words, he rushed at his opponent, ready to fight. With his blades at the ready, the Lord of Fire was ready for a confrontation. They leaned in, pressing their foreheads together, sharing a moment of sinister smiles. Fang Cheng's opponent boasted that his hands were covered with a special lava that was stronger than any metal. In response, Cheng coldly threatened to tear off those hands. When the Fire Lord launched an attack, Cheng skillfully blocked it. Meanwhile, Duan was busy fighting the demon's minions with his magical bone hands. During the fight, Duan saw the battle between Fang Cheng and the Fire Lord, and his eyes fell on the second demon. Recognition struck him. It was the Demon King they were looking for. Duan's heart was racing with confusion over this scene. Not understanding why this confrontation with the Lord of Fire had occurred, Cheng released several blades. When they took off toward their enemy, the Fire Lord showed no intention of evading. Instead, he stretched his arms forward, arrogantly claiming that he did not need to avoid the attack. Easily dodging what can only be called a weak attack, he shattered all of Fang Chen's blades with a single blow. Fang Cheng stood there in shock, struggling with the reality that his opponent had just destroyed his weapon through sheer physical force. At this point, the Fire Lord rushed toward Fang Cheng, shouting a promise to demonstrate the vast gulf between their powers. He delivered a strong punch directly to Fang Cheng's chest, pushing the young man and himself several meters and smashing the wall. Duan, momentarily distracted from his own affairs, looked at him in amazement. Fang Cheng and Fire Lord not only destroyed the second wall in their confrontation, but also quickly got out. The blow was so cerebral that it destroyed everything in its path. The confrontation continued and the attacks became even more brutal. With the demon's fist still pressed to his chest, Fang Cheng was thrown into a parked car on the street. As he got to his feet, he felt an irresistible force emanating from the Lord of Fire, as if his power knew no bounds. With an ominous smile, the demon prepared to launch another attack, mockingly asking if this was the extent of Fang Cheng's abilities and calling his performance a disgrace. In a fierce moment, the demon threw out a mighty fist about to hit Fang Cheng. However, Fang Cheng deftly dodged the attack at the last second, causing the demon's fist to slam into the car, destroying it to pieces. The Fire Lord's gaze turned to Fang Cheng, who was now standing a few meters away. Having made an ominous decision, the demon picked up the broken car, preparing to throw it at Fang Cheng, mockingly stating that he could not avoid him indefinitely. When the wrecked car took off toward him, Fang Cheng responded with lightning reflexes. Activating its unique abilities, it released tentacles that snatched the flying machine out of the air. The tentacles that enveloped the car caught it and redirected it to the demon. The attack was unexpected and hard to think of. The enveloped machine tentacled at the enemy. Quickly changing his tactics, Fang Cheng pointed the car at the Fire Lord, hitting him right in the face. Despite being struck down, the Fire Lord remained unyielding, growling and spitting blood, not believing in Fang Cheng's ability to turn the demon's own attack against him. The two enemies faced each other, their auras flashing in the tension of the moment. Fang Cheng, with a burst of anger, drew his sword and told the Fire Lord about the disaster he had caused in the marketplace of Tongju 5 years ago. The Lord of Fire only responded with a malicious smile, comparing Fang Cheng's request to the triviality of recalling a minor event, emphasizing the ruthless conflict between them. 5 years ago, Fang Cheng was engulfed in flames, and this act caused him to become furious. Clutching his sword with unwavering determination, he leapt into the air, vowing revenge in blood against the Fire Lord. In response, the demon swung his fiery spear. Despite Fang Cheng's aggressive attack, the Fire Lord skillfully replaced his weapon with an identical one during the battle, effectively countering Fang Cheng's attacks. As the struggle continued, Fang Cheng found that he could not break through the demon's defense. At the time, the Fire Lord mocked Fang Cheng, claiming that his game of fencing, fueled only by hatred, lacked true strength and that a child could easily surpass him. In a flash of anger, Fang Cheng made another attempt to silence the demon with his blade. However, the Lord of Fire did not notice, pierced Fang Cheng with his spear, ridiculing him for allowing his spirit to be overshadowed by hatred. He said that such a feud had so depleted Fang Cheng's will that it would have been easy to break him. At that moment, Fang Cheng's eyes widened in shock, and a restrained groan escaped his lips as the Fire Lord pulled the spear from his body. The exhausted man fell on his back. The demon, reaching out to him, laughed smugly. He mocked, asking if this was really the best the man could do, noting that he hadn't even had time to have fun. As Fang Cheng's eyes began to sink, blood spurted from his chest. He resigned himself to the knowledge that this was the end. The demonic image of Fang Cheng disappeared, revealing his human form again. The demon, hovering over him, commented on his pitiful condition. He asked, "How could they?" Even though he could barely speak because of his battered face, Fang Cheng, who was derisively called the Demon King, gathered his strength to ask the demon of extermination if he had come to mock him. Instead of mocking him, the demon descended before him, hinting that if Fang Cheng truly wished to defeat his opponent, he must show unwavering determination. He added that if Fang Cheng lacked strength, he should make up for it with increased energy. He urged him to remember the original reason that motivated him to fight. Caught off guard by the demon's reaction, Fang Cheng glared at him, a wave of realization sweeping over him. After a moment of reflection, looking upward as if searching for answers in the space around him, he turned to the demon of extermination. With newfound clarity, he revealed that his participation in the battle was motivated by a much bigger cause than he remembered. In an effort to provide a better life and financial stability for his older sister, he clenched his fist, emphasizing his desire to destroy the Fire Lord as retribution for his parents' untimely deaths. The demon of extermination asked if he had never really fought for himself. With an ominous smile, he replied that the essence of the demon of extermination lies in its zeal for battle and its delight in defeating its opponents. These statements seemed to trigger a revelation in Fang Cheng, taking him by surprise. The demon of extermination ordered him to get up and resume the battle, encouraging him to use his primal desire to survive. Turning into a dark aura, the demon continued to merge with the surprised Fang Cheng. As he absorbed more and more of the demon's power, his aura began to emit a bright red glow. Asked what he was doing, Fang Cheng attracted the attention of the advancing Fire Lord, wielding a spear and struck by the formidable black and red aura surrounding his enemy. Confused by the unfolding events and the growing aura, the demon tried to understand the reason for this unexpected surge of power. Amidst the enveloping darkness, the red glow of Fang Cheng's eyes flashed with newfound intensity. During the transformational surge of power, its shape underwent another metamorphosis, increasing in size and strength. His skin turned a dark purple hue. The horns that adorned his head expanded, and his fangs became larger and more terrifyingly sharp. Expressing his intention to destroy the Fire Lord, Fang Cheng, now a formidable titan, enveloped himself in a veil of red energy, proclaiming his renewed strength with a thunderous shout. The Lord of Fire, amazed by Fang Cheng's suddenly enhanced abilities despite his fatal injury, pondered the riddle that confronted him. It became clear to him that with each wound he received, Fang Cheng's strength grew incredibly. He realized that such resilience is a hallmark of a demon slayer. With blazing red eyes, a formidable smile spread across his face, and driven by a hellish determination, Fang Cheng moved forward. The sight of his evolved opponent now possessing double the explosive power made the Fire Lord widen his eyes in alarm. However, when Fang Cheng closed the distance at a terrifying speed, the Fire Lord barely stepped aside, prompting the protagonist to crash into the ground with such force that it shattered into pieces. Stretching out a black clawed hand to the Lord of Fire, Fang Cheng quickly reacted by grabbing him by the throat. With considerable force, Chen threw it to the ground, creating a shockwave that destroyed the surrounding ground and vehicles. Blood splashed out of the Fire Lord's mouth when a car overturned nearby. Despite the obvious injury, the Fire Lord gritted his teeth, calling Fang Cheng crazy. He took a deep breath, summoning flames around him, and asked if Fang Cheng really believed that such actions were enough to end him. Enveloped in a tall pillar of flame, the Lord of Fire appeared, his clawed hand now covered in fire, fully embodying his molten anger. With an evil smile, he taunted Fang Cheng, asking if he admired his best form before launching an attack. Fang Cheng, unperturbed, said he was not afraid of such a miserable flame, saying that it could not harm him in his armored state. With precision, he grabbed the Lord of Fire by the shoulder, and with his hands shining with fierce red energy, he moved rapidly downward, cutting off the enemy's arm. The Lord of Fire, now staring furiously at the stump where his hand had been, jumped back, caught off guard by Fang Cheng's fierce counterattack. "How could you?" he shouted, declaring this act unforgivable. The hand of the Lord of Fire, burning again, sought to strike. At that moment, Fang Cheng closed the distance between them, an ominous smile gracing his face. He threw his fist towards the enemy. The latter's torso was already engulfed in fire. The Lord of Fire responded with a powerful blow, loudly proclaiming that today would be the end for one of them. They raced along the ground, exchanging blows rapidly, their conflict forcing the abandoned cars to scatter in all directions. A burst of flame burst from the Fire Lord's hand, rushing toward Fang Cheng. Undaunted, Fang Cheng lunged forward, his fist slicing through the air as the flames around him faded into oblivion. The bewildered Fire Lord gritted his teeth, trying to figure out how Fang Cheng could neutralize his fiery attack with his mere fists. Then he realized that his mind had been seized by a blind, cruel rage that made him impervious to pain. With a strong punch, Fang Cheng pushed the Fire Lord back, smashing him against a wall shrouded in red energy. Looking at his fallen opponent, Fang Cheng asked, "What was the purpose of your starting this conflict?" 5 years after the devastating fire, the Fire Lord crouched down on the ground and said that he had simply followed the order of the High Priest, acting as an enforcer for the demonic sect. The protagonist, wielding a sword, asked about the High Priest of a demonic sect. The Lord of Fire attributed all the blame to him, asking why he should be fired when it was not his fault. Fang Cheng, filled with anger, responded sarcastically, asking how he was supposed to explain the tragedy to his deceased parents, and demanding to know if he was responsible for the burning of countless innocent lives. He proclaimed that the Lord of Fire had no reason to defend his innocence. When the protagonist was waving his black sword, the Lord of Fire tried to intervene, seeking a reprieve. Fang Cheng, undaunted, split his flaming form in two, offering, so that any last words would be directed to the souls taken by his actions in the afterlife. The Lord of Fire fell, wondering if his eternal flame could give him another chance for bodily existence. When the flames flew past, barely missing the protagonist, someone in the background shouted about the need to eradicate weeds from their roots. At the same time, a red motorcycle with spiked wheels sped across the terrain. These wheels ruthlessly pressed on the Fire Lord's fiery essence, stopping his advance. At the moment the motorcycle stopped, the Fire Lord, stuck under its wheels, let out an agonized scream and began to dissipate into thin air. In the midst of his suffering, he discovered that he was only a tool of the demonic church, warning that his death at their hands would provoke the wrath of the High Priest. Unfazed, Fang Cheng waved his sword, demonstrating his indifference and determination to destroy the existence of the church. With a decisive blow, he eliminated the last traces of the Fire Lord's essence. Radiating a red aura and holding a sword, the protagonist felt a surge of triumph. The victory over the Lord of Fire gave him the skill of the power of flame. Grabbing the handles of the motorcycle, Fang Cheng got on, ready to go on his next journey, fueled by his newfound ability. He hid his sword behind his back, a smile spreading across his face as he thought about leaving. There was no point in lingering here. If D-Land tried to trap him, trouble would surely ensue. He stepped on the gas pedal and drove away, a cloud of dust rising behind him. Meanwhile, Duan fought opponents of a fiery nature, using his huge skeleton-like arms to slam them against the floor, ceiling, and walls. The impact reverberated with great intensity, indicating their considerable strength. In the midst of the chaos, Duan took a moment to curse. The puppet enemies in front of him had diverted his attention from the spectacle of the two demons fighting. After leaving the bar, Duan jumped over the overturned vehicles, surveying the aftermath with a sharp eye. "I think I'm a little late," he remarked as rain began to fall from the cloudy sky. It was then that the protagonist was maneuvering through a dark alley on his motorcycle, but abruptly dismounted. Shuddering, he gradually retreated from his demonic form back to human form, seeking support against the indefinite structure. "I can finally catch my breath," he exhaled as the red energy surrounding him dissipated into the cool night air. It was at this point that the fighter demon asked the protagonist, his voice laced with curiosity, if he was sure of his decision. Having decided to confront the high priest for the death of his parents, Fang Cheng said that he would not rest until he avenged them with his own hands. Hearing this, the demon of extermination punched him in the chest, laughed at Fang Cheng's determination, but noted that such willpower would make him stronger. Grimacing in pain, Fang Cheng asked if the demon wanted to kill him. Approximately 40 minutes later, a fire truck was spotted outside the bar as a masked and hooded man noted that the infamous Fire Lord had died after all. Another, similarly dressed, commented on the dangers of recklessness and, removing his mask, insisted that the task should have been assigned to him from the beginning. He promised to personally perform the ritual at Dango. With slightly long black hair and yellow eyes in dark glasses, he smiled as he offered to place his trust in the high priest. Pushing himself off the ground, he confidently declared that he would not fail as 3 black spears materialized around him. Suspended in midair above the trio, he declared himself the chosen heir to the power of the shadow demon. Meanwhile, figures in blue uniforms slid down below, revealing the presence of the demons where the shadows had cut into the ground with 3 black spears. "Shadow of death," he said, his gaze sealing their fate. Blood gushed from the men's backs as his sentence took effect. The next morning, Fang Cheng greeted his older sister with a bright smile, announcing his return. Surprised, she turned around, her relief evident. She expressed her growing concern, noting his continued silence on her calls. Fang Cheng, apologizing, explained his recent preoccupation with the demon hunt, which, despite the demands, went extremely well. So much so that he managed to buy a special gift for her. Curious, she asked about the gift. Fang Cheng's smile widened as he talked about his purchase of the store, which now belongs to her. Handing her the keys, he encouraged her. "Do your best because it's yours now." Now running her own store, Fang Cheng was able to widen her older sister's eyes in surprise. With her hands on her hips and her head tilted to the side, her sister asked about expenses. She suggested that Fang should focus on securing his future by investing in an apartment, hinting at the inevitability that he would start a family someday. Smiling, Fang explained that he sees the store as an investment in the future, confident that it will generate enough income to eventually buy an apartment. These considerations seemed to sway his sister, who admitted that Iklo had indeed matured considerably. Expressing her happiness as his older sister, she noticed and handed him an envelope on the table, explaining that it was from the Hunters' Union and was in his name, so she did not open it. When Iklo opened the envelope, he was happy to find that he had received an official hunting license. His sister congratulated him, recognizing his new status as a true hunter, which she thought was wonderful. Because of this, Fang reflected on the significance of the achievement. It was ironic because there was tomorrow. At the Hunter Academy, where the hunting exam was to take place, a man who was not afraid of anything was preparing for the upcoming challenge. The venue for the exams, Hunter Academy itself, was buzzing with anticipation. A man in a business suit with a scar on his face warmly greeted the candidates. He introduced himself and his colleagues as examiners from the Hunters' Union, who were tasked with overseeing the day. He announced that those who successfully passed the exam would receive the coveted hunter's license. This announcement was met with enthusiastic cheers from the candidates. The man then wished the candidates good luck, igniting an atmosphere of anticipation. Amidst the excitement, a conversation started between the candidates. One of them, a bald-headed man, sneeringly remarked that Fang Cheng was noticeably absent and would thus miss his chance to get a license. Chen, joining in on the jokes, suggested that perhaps Fang Cheng had realized his own inadequacies in the exam and decided not to participate, hiding his disappointment behind a smile. Chen, smiling with a slight tinge of disdain, recalled a previous encounter in which Fang Cheng had defeated him, attributing the loss to being caught off guard. He confidently stated that he had been training hard since then, leaving Fang Cheng no chance this time. Long Yu, another candidate, chimed in, confirming her knowledge of Fang Cheng, hinting at a level of familiarity or understanding of his character and abilities. Through this exchange, we create a picture of the competitive and challenging nature of the hunter exam, as well as the diverse motivations and backgrounds of those who seek the prestige of becoming a licensed hunter. Chang is better than them, and he will really come, Chen remarked, admiring the protagonist, who responded with a smile as he noticed the large crowd that had gathered. Long expressed his surprise upon his arrival. Chang Feng mentioned that they were getting close to graduating from the academy, which made him show up. He then revealed his intention to withdraw from the exam. In disbelief, Long asked if he was joking, to which Shen Chan replied mockingly, suggesting that losers remain losers, mocking his lack of courage to even try. The bald guy added, smiling, that his girlfriend claims to know him better than anyone else. The protagonist frowned, clarifying that there might be a misunderstanding. He decided to decline because it didn't make sense to participate since he already had a hunting license. Long Yao was impressed with his progress. Chang Fang, smiling mischievously, teased him, asking if he could come up with something more believable. The dark-haired man asked if he really believed what he was saying. It was dismissed as nonsense, especially by the man with the scar. He said that students who have already received a hunting license are exempt from the exam, but the legitimacy of the license must be checked in person, he explained. The protagonist nodded in agreement, anticipating such a statement. The scarred man pulled a black license out of the envelope, causing the audience to shout in surprise. He confirmed that it was a genuine license issued by the Union of Hunters, adding that it had a C-class rating, assessed by the vice president of Zai himself. Amidst the disbelief, the bald man asked if it was a joke, and the dark-haired man was confused, noting that the protagonist was just a student, typically eligible only for D-grade licenses. Chen Chan said that this was an unfathomable turn of events. Wang Yu, with his hands clasped together, asked how long he had planned to hide his promotion to C-class hunter, finding it offensive. Fang Cheng apologized, explaining that the promotion had taken place only the day before. This revelation attracted a crowd of students who surrounded him with a mixture of awe and questions. Recognizing his unparalleled talent, they all agreed that he was indeed a prodigy. Someone mentioned that he was an indispensable addition to the team. The protagonist, with a sigh, reflected on the mystery of human nature, how those who had once ridiculed and belittled his flaws now praised his prowess. The scarred man predicted a great future for him, suggesting that soon the name Fan Chi would become synonymous with the fearsome demon hunter, glorified everywhere. He then invited Fan Chi to join the Hunters Union to contribute to the city's welfare. The enthusiasm of the crowd was palpable, marveling at his opportunity with the Hunters Union and the brilliant prospects that lay before him. Chen, on the other hand, was seething with anger. The protagonist, however, remained thoughtful, calling the offer attractive, but decided to decline with a serious demeanor. Fang Chi reasoned inwardly, aware of the limitations that his identity as a demon hunter imposed on his public appearances, making him unable to accept. "Join us for now," the man with the scar suggested. He didn't believe that anyone in his memory had ever rejected such a generous offer from the Hunters Union. With a smile, Long thought that he certainly had reasons for refusing, which she suspected no one could understand. The man with the scar mentioned to his colleague that the Tonju Hunters Union had immediately granted him a C-class hunter's license, which shows that President Jue holds him in high regard. He advised them not to torture him about it. The man with dark glasses agreed, saying that they would not force him, but expressed hope that he would change his mind in the future. When the man with the scar approached the students, he ordered them to disperse because the exam was about to begin. The protagonist hinted that their paths would cross again, reasoning that socializing with humans often bored him, which contrasted with his experience among demons. Long chimed in, reaffirming her determination to keep up, confidently aiming to pass the exam as well. When the time came for her to prove herself, they exchanged fists, and Fang Cheng expressed his confidence in her abilities, promising to support her throughout. Above them, the sky was a brilliant blue hue obscuring the clock tower. Not far away, a man reluctantly wondered why he should awaken such an unpleasant ability, lamenting the extra year of study it required. His friend, a man with lilac hair, chuckled as he boasted that he had passed the exam with flying colors and was now an E-class hunter. The girl admired his new ability to summon weapons and expressed her desire to have similar powers. The topic then changed when someone mentioned the village elder who had recently awakened a C-rank wind ability. The group congratulated Chen on awakening the D-rank thunderbolt ability, although they teased that he was still no match for Fang Cheng. Chen, irritated, gave them an electric shock and sternly ordered them to shut up, promising to prove himself against his enemy. As the students meandered past the grocery stores, Long sat at the table engaging the protagonist in conversation, setting the stage for another adventure. With a warm smile, he declared that tonight's dinner would be for her, celebrating her awakening to C-rank abilities, officially proclaiming her a hunter. He marveled at Long Yu's genius, but he knew that her achievement was not only due to genius. She must have undergone extensive training to reach such heights. Fang Cheng reflected on his own strength, estimating it to be at the mid-C rank level, so the gap between them was not significant. Inspired, he decided to step up his efforts to become stronger. Long Yu shared her future aspirations, revealing her ambition to take the Demon Hunter faculty exam, and asked about his plans. The protagonist, watching the red energy swirling around his hand, expressed a preference to continue working solo for a while. The conversation turned light-hearted when the extermination demon jokingly remarked that his wife intended to join the Demon Slayer unit, even joking that she might target him one day. The protagonist waved his hand dismissively and laughed at the comment. Interested in this interaction, Long Yu asked what happened. The protagonist scratched the back of his head with a tinge of embarrassment, evading a detailed answer. His mind convinced her not to worry, assuring her that everything was fine. With a smile, he supported her decision, expressing hope that she would soon realize her dreams. Long reciprocated, expressing her desire for him to become one of the most feared demon hunters, firmly believing in his potential. Now that they had graduated from the academy, she was afraid that meetings with Fang Cheng would be less frequent. During the broadcast, the news anchor reported an invasion of the southern region of the city by shadows, noting that many local residents had been transformed into shadow demons. The anchor warned that these entities were attacking everyone in sight and called for immediate evacuation, noting that professional hunters were already dealing with the situation on the ground. Wu found the incident strange, linking it to previous arson attacks, and suggested that the Church of the Devil might be involved, possibly trying to summon Dongju. Fang Cheng announced his intention to personally investigate the matter. When he was asked if he would go on another hunting trip, he did not have a chance to answer before the story turned to a gruesome scene. The city under the crimson sky lay in ruins, giving way to an ominous sight. The dark figure, which resembled a wolf but had glowing yellow eyes, suddenly growled fiercely. With a quick and brutal attack, he tore the two wolves apart. Holding the sword, the protagonist noticed that he was thinking about turning ordinary dogs into shadow demons. As he pondered how these dogs could destroy so many hunters, a frown appeared on his face. He realized that there must be creatures of much greater power hiding nearby. His suspicions were confirmed when a colossal centipede demon materialized behind him. Reacting with lightning speed, Fang Cheng turned around and jumped back, narrowly avoiding a black spear that entered the ground where he had been standing a few minutes before. Blood spurted from his mouth as he stared down at the spear that had emerged from his shadow, clinging to the realization that the attack on his shadow had caused tangible damage to his body. Now facing a huge centipede demon, Fang Cheng gathered his strength as the creature dashed away.